The taste of him was intoxicating, a mixture of power and promise that I craved with every fiber of my being. My heart raced as he deepened the kiss, and I screamed my approval, responding tenfold, the world outside forgotten beneath the storm's tumult. Drawn to him even deeper, I felt the tables turn. The power shifted, no longer just an argument, but a breathtaking dance. I had always kept my heart locked away, guarded like a fortress, yet here I was, throwing open those gates, surrendering to the heat of the moment. Just as the rain began to thrash against the window, heavy and insistent, I felt him lift me, pressing me against the cool surface, the fierce embrace igniting a fire of passion that filled the air. "Tell me you want this?" His breath brushed against my cheeks, urgent and raw. "I want this, I want you," I gasped out between kisses, the brokenness dissolving, drowning in the storm of passion that enveloped us. Then let go. He took control, claiming my mouth and the heat of my body as I surrendered to the sensation, an avalanche of emotions sweeping through us both. Indignation, yearning, and a desperate need to be near one another as we tore down the walls in the midst of the storm. Together, battling the rift, but more than that, fusing something beautiful from our chaos. I wrapped my legs around his waist, crying out as he pressed against me, the thunder rumbling like a choir of forgiveness around us. What storm? We were the storm. The world outside was a forgotten high-rise of obligations, a footnote in our narrative. Here in this glass-walled room, the intensity of our passions chased away the chill, and our fiery connection burned bright against the shadows of uncertainty, igniting the promise of what we could become. As the rain poured, we breathed as one. "Let's promise the truth," I murmured breathlessly, my heart racing even faster as he solidified our unity with a kiss. Drowning in one another, letting passion and chaos collide, forever binding our fates. Always, he kissed me deeply, fiercely awakening the wafting fires of a new beginning, igniting the journey that had only just begun. Chapter 35, Turbulent Waters. The rain lashed against the large bay windows of the retreat like a chorus of frustrated souls, its relentless drumming matched only by the storm brewing inside me. I stood in the sitting room, where crackling embers barely kept the chill at bay, watching the curtains sway with an unseen force. The serene, woodsy sanctuary we had chosen for a weekend of reflection and tranquility now felt like a prison, each thunderclap outside echoing the chaos within. The aroma of damp earth mingled with the faint scent of the cedar walls, rich and bold, grounding me in this moment of stark reality. My heart raced as I recalled the sense of exhilaration I once felt at the thought of spending time with Malcolm. But that feeling had morphed rapidly into trepidation. My fingers grazed over the soft woolen throw draped across the armchair, and I had to steady my breath, the storm outside matching the tempest of emotions storming through my mind. "Ava?" Malcolm's voice sliced through the charged silence, authoritative yet tinged with a hint of concern. He entered, his presence commanding, draped in a tailored navy sweater that clung to his frame effortlessly. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I have," I shot back, turning to face him fully. Every thunderous crash outside seemed somehow less intimidating than the intensity simmering between us. "Just trying to find a moment of peace here." I gestured toward the rain-soaked view as if nature could explain my turmoil. "Peace?" He took a slow step towards me, his dark eyes narrowing. "You mean hiding. You've been running since we got here. What are you afraid of, Ava?" There it was, his relentless probing, a constant reminder that my carefully constructed walls were far too visible to him. "Fear doesn't drive me, Malcolm," I replied, crossing my arms to shield myself from his piercing gaze. "I'm not running. I'm strategizing." The irony hung heavy in the air. How could I call myself a strategist when I kept losing my footing around him? He sighed, a blend of frustration and something softer, more profound. "Then why do you look like you want to flee? I thought we were past this." A pause stretched between us, thick as the oppressive air before a storm. You can't claim to know me, Malcolm, I said finally, my voice steady although I felt anything but. You made that mistake once and I won't make it again. The truth tasted bitter, but it was necessary. Before he could respond, the door swung open and our friends Lena and Tyrone stumbled in, laughter trailing behind them like a comet's tail. Look at you two, getting all broody while we're out here having fun, Lena exclaimed, shaking rain from her curly hair, droplets cascading onto the plush carpet. You should have seen the way the branches were bending. We thought the roof might blow off, Tyrone added, hands on his hips as though he had just scaled a mountain. Lena fell onto the sofa, her laughter brightening the dimness of the room. Maybe we should harness that storm energy and challenge each other to a game, Lena suggested. Random games? Great idea. How about hide and seek in the storm? I mused, my heart still racing, but the tension between Malcolm and me momentarily forgotten amidst the light-hearted chaos. The moments stretched. Malcolm's eyes blackened with something unnameable. Or maybe we should be seeking the truth, he said coolly, leaving the two guests confused and me feeling like I'd been dumped back into a freezing pool. Okay then, how about we just seek out some hot cocoa instead? Lena shot back, genuine laughter breaking the heaviness. I vote for comfort rather than conflict. Tyrone grinned, clapping his hands together. Count me in, but it'll take more than cocoa to keep the storm spirits at bay. As they leaped toward the kitchen, I found myself lingering, watching Malcolm, who had turned his back to me, hands braced against the mantel. The casual display of his muscles made my throat go dry. Suddenly I felt bereft. You can be so dense, you know. Not everything is a duel, I lamented softly, inching closer, feeling the pull between us like an anchor in turbulent waters. I'm not denying a duel, Ava. I'm just asking you to be honest, he replied, not turning around. Why are you scared? Scared of what? You want me to lay my soul bare, but would you do the same? I leaned against the fireplace, the heat contrasting sharply with the icy knot in my stomach. He turned to face me, gaze steady and unwavering. I have laid things bare, but you don't see what's in front of you. His words flowed with the cadence of thunder, powerful yet alluring. Just then, Lena reappeared, cups of steaming cocoa in hand, her jovial nature slicing through the tension. See, hot cocoa makes everything better, and it's perfect for stormy nights. Truly, we should bring the outside storm into our hearts too, she said, waggling her brows. Tyrone chimed in, his voice full of faux seriousness. Nothing converts fear into warm fuzzies quite like marshmallows and whipped cream. I took the mug Lena handed me, the warmth radiating through my fingers. You two are ridiculous, I laughed, thankful for the light-hearted moment. I had escaped into the warmth, if only for a fragment of time. But Malcolm merely watched, arms folded, a storm still lurking in his eyes, and I couldn't shake this wave of conflict crashing between us. You think I'm ridiculous? He said, words dripping with an undercurrent of suspicion. No, not at all. Just, I struggled, glancing at Tyrone and Lena, who were already embroiled in a discussion about romantic comedies and their questionable plot twists. It's just, maybe we shouldn't let the storm win. You leave me feeling bruised, but I don't want to fight right now. The air turned electric as I let my truth slide free. Something in his gaze softened, and maybe it was the marshmallow topping or the way the cocoa seemed to melt away the obstacles between us, but for the first time, my resolve began to waver. Then don't fight, he replied, voice deep and resonant, fingers curling around the worn handle of his mug. Just tell me how you feel. The question lingered. I was on the precipice of vulnerability, the fullness of emotion threatening to spill over. I feel overwhelmed. You push me, challenge me. It's raw and alive, and I think I hate that most of all. The honesty trembled in the air, frail yet freeing. I don't want you to hate this, he said tightly, stepping closer, filling the space with his magnetic energy. Then you should stop trying to ignore it. But maybe I like the challenge, I countered, a playful smile creeping onto my lips as I felt emboldened. Or maybe you're just afraid of what'll happen when you give in, he reached out, tucking a wet curl behind my ear. The intimacy in that small gesture sent shivers down my spine, urging me to meet his gaze, daring me to step off the edge. I think I'm afraid of how much I want to give in, Malcolm. I met his eyes, acknowledging the fire sparking between us, a dance of desires tempered by fear and trepidation. He leaned in closer, whispering teasingly, "Then let's stop pretending." And in a reckless moment, as the storm railed outside, our lips collided. The kiss was like the chaos of the tempest, a collision of wild emotions, a push and pull of longing that soared into something greater. The sweetness of hot cocoa lingered between us, tangling with the breath of what we had not yet dared to say. Lena popped her head into the door again. "You two are the absolute worst at hiding feelings. There's just that chemistry radiating." "Lena," Tyrone's voice was a playful reprimand, but I felt the flush rise to my cheeks as he continued. "Can't you see that they finally jumped off that cliff they've been standing on?" "Oh, trust me, it's more like a cannonball at this point." Lena winked as she grabbed Tyrone's arm and pulled him away, the door swinging shut behind them, leaving us alone in the crackling warmth of the fire's glow. We broke apart, panting slightly, my heart fluttering with abandon. "What just happened?" I dared to ask, breathless and entirely swept away. "I think," his voice lowered, "we finally found calm in the storm." The glimmer in his eyes deepened. I knew then that this was no ordinary union. Chaos, desire, and ambition mingled, forging bonds deeper than either of us had anticipated. That thunder outside felt almost like a celebration, a promise that love, like the weather, can brew beautifully chaotic storms, tearing apart only to revel in the clarity that follows. "Let's ride this wave," I suggested, laughter spilling from my lips, feeling alive and vibrant. "But it better be one hell of a ride." "Agreed," Malcolm grinned, the dark clouds of tension easing, replaced by the exhilarating thrill of something more, the kind of love that conquers all, bold and brave. And with that, we unveiled our vulnerability, knowing the risks we took would either strengthen or fracture us into pieces too small to decipher. All I could think was how magnificent and dizzying this journey had been. Just perhaps, how being in this deceptive calm was the real beginning of the storm. "I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request." Chapter 37. Ava's Bold Stance. The scent of freshly brewed coffee enveloped the room, mingling with the crisp scent of newsprint and the faint, lingering smell of lemon-scented cleaner. I stood at the kitchen island, the sunlight streaming through the large windows, illuminating the glossy countertops, highlighting the messy array of my thoughts. I could hear the rhythmic cadence of Malcolm's purposeful strides from the hallway, a sound that had become achingly familiar, yet disquieting in its regularity. As he entered, the tension seemed to wrap around the room like an electrified coil, waiting for a spark. "Good morning," he said, a lilting charm in his voice that usually made my heart flutter, but today it thudded with annoyance. "Is it?" I replied, my tone sharper than intended. I poured myself a cup, deliberately sliding the ceramic mug across the counter toward him. "I wasn't here to be cordial. I was here to take charge." He raised an eyebrow, amusement flickering across his dark eyes. "You seem vibrant today." The humor in his voice was a thin veil over the apprehension that stretched between us. "If vibrant means standing my ground, then yes," I said, meeting his gaze, daring him to unravel my resolve. "Good. I like a woman who knows what she wants." He leaned against the counter, arms folded, exuding an aura of command that often made people bend to his will. But I wasn't about to bend. "I want clarity," I declared, the words spilling out before I could second-guess myself. "You've been holding secrets like they're trophies, Malcolm. Time to share." His smile faltered, the air thickening. "Secrets are necessary in my line of work, Ava. You know that." I felt the heat of frustration bubbling beneath my skin. "No. What I know is that you've kept the most vital part of yourself hidden. You knew who I was from the start and kept playing games. That's not just a secret. It's a betrayal." I I didn't betray you. I protected you, he said, his voice steady, but his eyes revealing a flicker of vulnerability. I thought you deserved the chance to choose me without pretense. Choose you? I spluttered, an incredulous laugh escaping my lips. You didn't give me any choice, did you? I was just a curious consultant, and then I fell into this web of— I waved my hand, struggling against the tide of emotions. Of what? Power, ambition? He interrupted, his tone shifting slightly. I see that gleam in your eyes, Ava. Your ambition is the compass of your journey. Does it terrify you when it intersects with what's growing between us? The heat between us crackled, thickening the air. I watched him, gauging every flicker of his expression. What's growing between us? It feels more like a chasm. The silence that hung there was tinged with a nervous energy, echoing the raw honesty I had just laid bare. It was no longer safe. The line we walked found itself splintering underfoot. Finally, Malcolm broke it, his tone dipping low and fierce. I can't afford to be anything less than honest now. He took a step closer, closing the distance, his presence a storm, threatening to surge. I've had my demons, and loving you doesn't help the darkness, but it's a life I choose to fight for. And yet you use silence to shield yourself rather than pull me closer, I countered, my voice barely more than a whisper. I could see the battle inside him. Genuine fear drew the lines on his forehead tighter. Loving you is a risk, Ava, but it's a risk I'm willing to take. The question is whether you can accept what I bring. I don't even know what that is, I said, clasping the mug tightly. His gaze sharpened, a flicker of something intense igniting in his expression. Are you willing to find out? Before I could respond, the chirp of my phone interrupted us, a series of rapid-fire notifications breaking our heated moment. I glanced down to see messages flooding in from my colleagues, a potential security breach at the firm I had been monitoring. The adrenaline surged through me, igniting my focus. Are you seriously checking your phone right now? Malcolm said incredulously. I've got work to do, Malcolm, I retorted, rolling my eyes as I turned away, needing to diffuse the tension with a breath of practicality. If you're going to hover like that, at least hand me my laptop. He stepped back. Fine. Work first. Always. The sarcastic tone stung more than I anticipated, and I glanced at him, brows furrowed, feeling hurt and delighted by the banter all at once. Why are you being dramatic? I teased, my heart momentarily lightening. We both know I don't need you hovering. I'm an expert, remember? An expert who's stressing herself out, he surmised, moving toward me with purposeful intent. You're better off with me. He positioned himself closer, each word wrapping around me like a soft, unfurling vine. Maybe you should let me make my own choices, I shot back, though the tone wasn't as assertive as I intended. Fine. I'll make you a deal. His eyes twinkled with mischief. You put that phone down, and I'll show you just how well I can take care of you. An involuntary smile tugged at my lips, but I fought it back. You're impossible. And you're stubborn, but we both know that's part of the charm, he said, dipping his head low, his breath warm against my ear. So, are we in agreement? Taking a deep breath, I put down my phone, exploring the heady turbulence between us as I faced him. You are going to tell me everything. No more secrets. He watched me, our eyes locked in a dance of complex emotions, trust, fear, desire. Fine, he murmured, but only if you promise to hear me out completely. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of my own commitment settle warmly in my stomach, his presence suddenly more magnetic. Deal. Before I could process the weight of our pact, he leaned in, enclosing me in the cocoon of his protection. His lips pressed against mine with a fervor that sparked in my veins. It was urgent, passionate, a spark that ignited a fire I was wholly unprepared for. Every barrier I held up crumbled under the heat of our connection. The kiss deepened, hungry, as though he were claiming what was his. I responded with equal fervor, the lingering frustration, the moments of doubt melting away in the process. I found myself gripping his shoulders, pulling him closer still, lost in the orbit of his gravitational pull. Malcolm, I breathed against his lips. What if this is too much? Too soon? He pulled back slightly, his dark eyes searching mine. You think I haven't considered that? But every moment we waste complicates everything. His argument rang true. There was a flicker of devil-may-care in him that I admired more than I wanted to admit. Yet standing firm in my own autonomy was paramount, and the danger is worth it for you. His voice dipped, sincere and unwavering. I'd feel better if you weren't acting like I'm a pawn, I insisted. He chuckled, a sound that warmed my heart even as I fought to resist it. He pressed his forehead against mine, urgency teasing the edges of his words. You're anything but. You are my partner in every way, and I believe in our potential. What if I told you your dark past scares me? I whispered, the confession rolling off my tongue, fragile and earnest. Then I'd tell you that I don't know how to be the man you need without the weight of my past. My heart raced. Then maybe we need to face it together? Together, he echoed, his breath warm against my skin. We met again, lips crashing with renewed intensity. Our urgency pinged through the air like static electricity, distracting me entirely from the pressing work matters I had meant to attend to. I may have believed in risks, but this sensation bubbled over with wildfire passion that consumed all rationality. As bodies swayed to the rhythm of our desire, hands roamed without pretense, his fingers tangled in my hair, grounding me deeper into this new reality as thoughts of spreadsheets and deadlines faded into oblivion. I was on the cusp of choosing this man, diving headlong into unfamiliar waters, trembling boundaries dissolving with every kiss. As we lingered in that fragile space between revelation and surrender, I pulled away slightly, breathless. Tell me what I need to know. He hesitated, that flicker of the unknown between us hanging thick in the air. I'll tell you everything, just not right now, he murmured, brushing his lips against my throat, leaving an electric trail of fire in his wake. Malcolm, I began, but he silenced me with another searing kiss, as though sealing a pact more profound than words could convey. Let's see what unfolds, he murmured against my mouth, the promise lingering as fervent as the heat igniting within us. And just like that, the promise of an unfurling adventure buzzed around us, alive with possibilities. In gripping his hand, feeling his heart trace against my own, there was no backing away, no retreating from the chaos that awaited. Then let's dance with the danger together, I whispered, throwing my passion into the churning depths of uncertainty. And we did, embracing every delicious moment, wrapped in the thrill of not just falling, but choosing to leap. Chapter 38, Power Shift. The sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Malcolm's penthouse, scattering shards of light across the minimalist decor. I could practically hear the room's quiet inhale, the sharp precision of it, reminding me that even in the most chaotic hours, there existed moments of stillness. I adjusted the silk scarf around my neck, the fabric cool against my skin as I prepared for the upcoming discussion, though anticipation zigzagged through my body, hot and restless. Malcolm lounged at the mahogany conference table, his attentive gaze on a tablet, his fingers deftly swiping through data. The sharp lines of his navy blazer contrasted fiercely with the rounded softness of his couch, and a smirk tugged at his lips, a familiar look meant for me. But today, I felt a simmering competition beneath his calm exterior. "Ready to take on the world today?" he asked, his tone playful, yet laced with an unyielding seriousness that unsettled me. I leveled my gaze at him, trying to read those deep-set eyes, but they were as inscrutable as the vast ocean. "You mean ready to take on your world? Shouldn't it be me asking if you're ready?" He mirrored my confidence, raising an eyebrow as he leaned back, folding one leg over the other. "Anyone can handle a little challenge, Ava. The question is whether you'll step up or retreat into a labyrinth of your own insecurities." His challenge ignited something in me. I clenched my jaw as heat flushed my cheeks. I'm not retreating. I'm evolving. My voice firm, unyielding. Oh, I know, he replied, the slight curve of his lips holding a predatory edge. But evolution requires action, not just words. My heart raced, a blend of frustration and excitement. Careful, Malcolm. The last person who underestimated me didn't fare so well. We're not talking about career risks here. This is different. His tone had shifted, his words turning the air electric. Ignoring the shivers running down my spine, I shuffled some papers on the table. They were just documents on our upcoming presentation, a chance to finally showcase the cybersecurity initiative I'd spearheaded. Yet, they felt monumental, each sheet a page in an unfolding drama. I'd spent countless hours laboring over them, and they had taken on a weight of their own. Let's review this, I said, forcing my voice past the fluttering that had taken residence in my stomach. I want to ensure we highlight the security features and risk mitigation effectively. Right, effective is what we need. He motioned to the screen behind him, but his eyes remained locked on me. Though I must say you look exceptionally appealing this morning, it's hard to focus. My pulse quickened at the compliment, and I was tempted to let it unravel me. Focus on what matters, Malcolm. Oh, but you are what matters, he countered, his voice lowering, thickening like molasses. Are you suggesting you're not ready for what's coming? I lifted my chin, channeling the strength I'd honed over the years. Let me ask you this. Are you ready for the reality that I'm no longer your shadow? He straightened, intrigue lighting up his features. I've always seen you as more than that. Then let's prove it. He leaned forward, elbows resting on the table, an ancient king gauging the worth of his court. You want proof? You need to display that confidence when we walk into that meeting. Command the room, Ava. I hitched my breath, the challenge sending tingles through my veins. Then teach me. What's the lesson today, Miss Turner? His tone was playful, teasing, like gentle raindrops before a storm. I squared my shoulders, feeling a surge of audacity. That a woman's ambition isn't a choice between power and vulnerability. I refuse to hide behind anyone. An admirable perspective, he acknowledged, the glint in his eyes igniting a fire within me, one I'd be foolish to underestimate. Then let's stop this banter and get to work. Show me how to weave my ambition into these numbers. Then let's see what you're made of, he said, serving it dangerously close to a dare. Embarking on the presentation didn't prevent sparks from flying between us, tension crackling like the static just before a storm breaks. I wanted to shut down those electrical currents that coursed between us, but my body betrayed me. Each time he leaned in just a fraction closer, brushing my arm while gesturing at the screen, it was as if an intangible shield was lifting, one that dared me to close the distance. After the meeting, as we filed out into the bustling hallway, I felt Malcolm's hand graze the small of my back, an assertive cradle that sent my heart racing. You did well, he remarked casually, though his eyes were ablaze with intensity. Thanks, but I want more than just doing well. The boldness rushed through me, the unpretentious demand of familiarity. Oh, and what exactly do you want? His voice snaked into a lower octave, heat radiating between us. I want to be taken seriously. I want to feel it inside. Besides, I want you to see me not just as a partner, but an equal. What you want. He leaned closer, his breath barely touching my ear. And what you'll do to get it. Now that's the question. I will do what it takes, I replied defiantly, even as awareness of our closeness made me acutely aware of my breath, quickening. He chuckled softly, the humor mixing with tension. You certainly have a fire in you today. You haven't seen anything yet. Then let's set the world ablaze together. As my defiance began to bleed into something else, an electric current through my veins, he backed away, but not without holding my gaze. A silent acknowledgement of a burgeoning understanding between us. The desire that had simmered during our meeting now flared, the flame threatening to consume what little restraint I had left. How about a celebratory drink, he suggested, his eyes glimmering with mischief, just to celebrate your audacious spirit. Make it a double. I replied with a smile that sliced through the tension. In the dim light of a nearby lounge, our drinks arrived, sparkling glasses filled with a promised evening of laughter. Malcolm's eyes never left me as he leaned back, interlacing his fingers behind his head. So, tell me, what do you think of my world? What's there to think? It's fascinating, but it comes with too many hidden corners, I mused, my thoughts mirrored in his subtle nod. Those corners can be dangerous. You know that best. You've delved into the darkness. His gaze pierced me, seeking cracks in my courage. True, but darkness doesn't frighten me. Ignorance does. The risk is knowing how to navigate it. I replied, the simmering boldness wrapping around my voice like a warm embrace. Such a determined spirit, Ava. He raised his glass to me, and I mirrored the motion, a frozen moment in our shared history. Cheers to navigating the shadows, then, I said with a smirk. Cheers, he echoed, his voice a rumble in the thickening tension. As our drinks dwindled and the lounge buzzed around us, Malcolm's hand brushed against mine, part delicate touch, part confidence. It was that wave of heat that made me acutely aware of how right it felt, how perfectly luxurious, except everything kicked back into the chaotic undercurrent of our lives. Do you think it can last? He asked suddenly, a seriousness creeping into his eyes that pulled me deeper into his gravity. Last? I echoed, incredulous. Nothing's meant to last. But it can be enough. Enough for what? Enough to ignite a fire that can't be put out. Then let's see if we can stoke that fire. The moment lingered, crackling around us before heat transferred, infusing my resolve with palpable desire. Malcolm? Shh, he whispered, leaning in, his breath warm against my lips, the weight of the world falling away. Suddenly we were lost in each other, bodies colliding in an embrace, hunting for the spark that had ignited in that boardroom just hours before. I wrapped my fingers in his hair, pulling him closer, tasting the sweet thrill of proximity. Each kiss deepened, unrelenting and raw, sending waves of fire unfurling across my skin. Tell me you feel this, he murmured between kisses, his hands tracing paths over my spine. I do, I replied breathlessly, the honesty trailing in an argument against prior restraint. I want this. Us. Good, he muttered, lips trailing down my neck, igniting every nerve ending in a fever pitch. Because I intend to make this moment count. In that fervent connection, we danced through desires unshackled, lost in the chaos of our combined power. I swallowed the fevered uncertainty and succumbed to the moment, reveling in the sweet ruin of our worlds colliding. Can you keep up? He teased, a statement mingled with challenge and playful dominance. I smiled through the haze, drunk on mid-desire. Watch me. And just like that, in a world they believed they controlled, we began to redefine our own constraints, blazing trails of passion and conviction through uncharted territory. I had reclaimed my agency, not just as a partner, but as a force to contend with. Maybe Malcolm had veered into dangerous territory, but unlike before, I was not just a fleeting shadow in that realm. I was a hurricane of unapologetic ambition and vulnerability, poised to change everything. Moments later, Malcolm exhaled a breathy laugh that melted into me, and I realized this was only the beginning. Our fire had truly begun to burn bright. Chapter 39. Emotional Minefield. The scent of roasting garlic filled the air, mingling with the crisp bite of fresh rosemary as I minced the delicate herb on the wooden board. The rhythmic chop of my knife was steady, a contrast to the chaotic thoughts swirling in my mind. On the stove, a pot of water threatened to boil over, bubbles rising chaotically, crying out for attention. It mirrored the tumult inside me well. I quickly adjusted the heat, my heart racing to keep pace with the madness of the past few days. Malcolm had left close to an hour ago, and only now could I hear the echo of our last exchange. The way his voice had cracked, filled with concern and a hint of urgency, echoed in the quiet space of my kitchen. "Ava, you can't just close off like that," he'd said, his eyes dark with intensity, unmistakably pleading. I had turned away, brushing aside the emotion that threatened to break through the dam I had built around my heart, unable to let him see how deeply his words had pierced. As if conjured by the chaotic atmosphere, the tall figure of Janelle, my closest friend and confidant, appeared in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed and eyebrows raised in incredulity. "What's burning? Or is that just your simmering tension?" she teased, her voice dripping with that signature sarcasm that could slice through tension like a hot knife through butter. I shot her a half smile, placing the knife down. "Just the dinner I'm trying not to ruin. Can you believe Malcolm's insistence that I open up more? I swear he thinks I'm a vault, and he has the key." Janelle stepped inside, gripping the edge of the counter, surveying the scene with keen eyes. "You are a vault, Ava. A beautiful, intelligent vault, filled with secrets you won't share, even with the man whose every gaze is like an invitation to unlock the door." I felt that familiar tension rise in my shoulders. He does not need to know everything. Not yet, and certainly not about my past. Her expression softened, and she leaned against the counter. "But maybe he should. You know he cares for you. Have you seen the way he looks at you? Like he's ready to fight a war just to keep you safe." "The war is what has me worried," I said, setting my hands on my hips, heat prickling my skin. "Do you really think he can handle the truth? My truths might blow up in our faces." "Sometimes those explosions are necessary for growth, darling," she replied, her tone carrying the weight of truth. Then she grinned mischievously, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Or for, explosive makeup sex." I couldn't help but snort. "You think that's the answer to everything?" "Why not? Let's be real. It's a lot more fun than just stewing in emotions. Isn't that what you want? Or do you prefer smothering your feelings till they shrivel up like raisins?" I let her words settle, taking a breath as the pot behind me simmered dangerously. In the face of Janelle's teasing, I felt the weight of my own indecision. There was an undeniable electricity between Malcolm and me, but there also loomed a thick fog of secrets that threatened to close in. Just then, my phone buzzed on the counter, jolting me. It was a message from Malcolm. "Can we talk? Meet me at the harbor house in an hour." I felt my stomach drop. I could hear the subtle echoes of the half-formed arguments in my head, of the conversations that could spiral into chaos. "Well, it seems Mr. Commanding hasn't quite given up yet," I said, trying to sound light, though the weight felt heavier. "Go, talk to him," Janelle encouraged, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You're not even giving him a chance to redeem himself." "Redeem himself? It's not about that, Janelle. It's about the choices he's made, the lies he lives with. He's constantly surrounded by darkness, and I don't want to get pulled into it." Janelle leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Ava, let's be real. Your past is your past, but if he's going to be in your future, he needs you to trust him. Give him a chance to hold you up, just as much as you do for him. You might find that he's a bigger person than you expect." "Or a bigger liar," I countered, but her words stirred something inside me. "Still," she said, "the point is, you can't sit here forever. You have to take that leap." The thought felt both terrifying and freeing. I took a breath, the scent of garlic and rosemary creeping into my lungs, grounding me momentarily. "You're right. I have to go." Janelle beamed, her playful demeanor bursting forward. "Oh, but not before I give you a makeover. He won't be able to resist you by the time you hit the harbor house." "Makeover?" I laughed, but she was already pulling me toward the bathroom, a whirlwind of determination wrapped in a chic outfit of her own making. An hour later, I stood before the expansive view of the bay from the harbor house, the sun painting the sky in swaths of pink and gold. I could feel both the thrill of anticipation and the nagging anxiety gnawing at the corners of my spirit. Malcolm was already seated at a table by the window, his tall frame leaning casually back in the chair, a glass of something amber resting between his fingers. The moment our eyes met, A ripple passed through me. It wasn't just chemistry, it was an acknowledgement of unspoken words and buried truths. "Hey," I said, my voice steadier than my heart. "Hey," he replied, his smile softening, as if he had been awaiting this moment for days. "You look incredible," he added, appraising me with an intensity that made the air shimmer around us. But I probably should have expected nothing less. "Flattery might not work this time, Malcolm. I'm still mad at you," I said playfully, though the sternness in my tone should have melted into something lighter. He chuckled, the kind of deep, rumbling laughter that sent tendrils of warmth spiraling inside me. "Fair enough. Do you want to start with an argument, or can we skip ahead to the touching part?" "Touching? I didn't know you were that sentimental," I replied, folding my arms, determined to keep a firm grip on my defenses. "Touching in the emotional sense, Ava. Don't let your imagination run away with you," he smirked, leaning his arms on the table with a sincerity that made my heart quicken. "I'm not here for emotional theatrics or poetic declarations," I replied, attempting to keep the air light, even as seriousness curled beneath. "We both know there are things we need to address." Malcolm nodded, his expression shifting toward deeper reflection. "You're right. He hesitated, eyes momentarily clouding. "I have hurt you. I didn't mean to trap you in the web of my own choices. If I could erase my past, I would." A silence slipped between us, thick and charged. Memories of our conversations about trust danced through my mind like ghosts, each step deeper into this minefield growing harder. "And yet, Malcolm," I interjected, leaning in slightly, "you've chosen to overlook my own past. You know nothing about my secrets, the very things I've held close for years. Aren't I worth that part of your truth?" His jaw clenched slightly, and I saw the battle rage in his eyes. "You are, but some truths are dangerous, Ava. He paused, the weight of regret palpable. "I've been aware of your real identity since we first interacted. I chose you, but it was never to entrap you. I never imagined this would go beyond our virtual connection." I felt as if the floor had dropped out beneath me, the shock suffocating. "You have been watching me this whole time?" "Not like that," he corrected. "I didn't exploit you. I admired you. Your work, your drive, you are brilliant. But you didn't think to tell me that I was a target in your world?" I pressed, my voice rising in intensity. "A target? No, Ava, not a target. Your skills, your brilliance made me realize you were different, special even. Everything I've done has pushed me to keep you safe, even if I'd been too selfish to admit it." "Safe or ensnared?" I shot back, but the truth clung to my throat. I felt the threads of a complicated tapestry woven tightly between us, a web of desire and fear, challenging everything I thought I knew. The tension hovered in the air, thick and electric, filled with unsaid emotions that fought for space. "You think I'm some easy mark, don't you?" I whispered, rendered vulnerable within the emotional fray. "No, you are so much more than that." His voice was forceful enough to push at my walls. "I want you in my life, Ava, wholeheartedly. But I know you're afraid of how deep this could go." "Afraid? Yes. But trapped? Only if you can't leave your shadows behind to walk into the light." His brow furrowed, and I sensed an urgency in him. "I only wish to protect you from the truth that could tear us apart. I don't want you in my world. It's dangerous. You're far too precious for that." "Precious or a pawn?" I challenged again, adrenaline driving my words sharp. He leaned closer, his intensity sharpening the edges of our conversation. "Both, if you won't allow me my vulnerability. But you need to decide, Ava. Do you want to pursue whatever this is between us, or will you retreat behind your walls like you always do?" My heart raced, caught in a trap of choice. Did I want to lean into this? Embrace the chaos? Before I could articulate a thought, the distance between us fizzled as he reached for my hand, fingers entwining. The warmth spread like wildfire up my arm, igniting my senses beyond reason. "Let me show you my truth, Ava," he murmured, the husky tone weaving around my resolve. "You might find that nothing is as it seems. If you want to leave, I will understand. But if you stay—" I caught my breath, feeling the magnetic pull. His raw passion was magnetic, intoxicating. What if staying means confronting the very darkness we have avoided? Then we confront it together, he replied, his voice resonating with sincerity that broke through my defenses. In that moment, the world outside faded. All the arguments, the tensions, the uncertainty pushed aside in favor of our entwined hearts. It was a journey neither of us could deny. Show me, I breathed, my voice thick with longing. He exhaled deeply, a look of relief flooding over him. Without hesitation, he stood, pulling me up along with him. His gaze locked onto mine, a shared understanding hanging heavy in the air. And just like that, the space closed around us. The kiss ignited like an unexpected blaze, lips crushing together in a mixture of fierce urgency and profound gentleness, swirling away every shred of hesitation. Our breaths mingled as I melted into him. The world crumbled, each kiss dismantling the emotional minefield we had tiptoed around. The taste of him, scotch and the lingering salt of the bay filled me, fueled by the fervor of our bottled fears. I wrapped my arms around his neck, our dance turning into something primal, hungry, desperate. Every touch ignited the very cells of our beings, spiraling deeper into the tempest we had created together. With each kiss, I felt both liberated and anchored, unveiling pieces of ourselves that had remained hidden for too long. Our bodies moved as if they had been waiting for this moment, an unstoppable force of nature crashing together. He whispered my name, an incantation, a promise, as our passion ignited, deepening into territory unexplored. I felt myself surrender, the walls crumbling, together now in the wake of mutual understanding. As desire consumed us, I pulled away for a brief moment, breathless, wide-eyed, starlight weaving through our locked gaze. Whatever this is, it might destroy us, I panted, the truth lingering on my lips, but I couldn't pull away. The gravity was too deep. Then let it destroy us, he murmured, pulling me back into an embrace laden with uncertainty and fervent hope. And then our bodies, our souls, ignited once more in defiance, laying bare every truth we dared to confront. In the thrall of our intimate chaos, I let the remnants of uncertainty fade, focusing only on our fire, enveloped in a whirlwind that promised both danger and discovery. But as I surrendered to the ecstasy, the nagging thought burrowed deep within my mind. Was it worth the risk? Would this turmoil ultimately transcend into forever? The world continued spinning, but within the walls of our sanctuary, we were reduced to two souls tangled together, the future as unpredictable as the new days to unfold. Chapter 40. Pressure Mounts. The cafe was a sanctuary tucked away in the trees, its scent of freshly brewed coffee mingling with the crisp autumn air laced with falling leaves. I perched on a stool by the window, earbuds in, fully absorbed in the buzz of the city outside. It was Sunday, yet the pulse of Manhattan was alive and visceral, a deceptive calm before the chaos that seemed to settle in my chest. I fiddled with my latte, dragging the foam into a heart shape. The irony hit me after pushing my creative energy into something so futile. The barista, a college student with an arm full of tattoos, caught my eye and smirked, as if to say, "You know that won't work." I shrugged, a tension knotting my stomach like a well-worn string of a favorite guitar. Malcolm's absence felt heavier than the forecasted rain, brewing like a storm front moving in beyond the overcast sky. I pulled my phone from my pocket, staring at his text from last night. "We need to talk." My heart leapt, tethered to the sunlight flickering behind the clouds. Looking pensive, a light voice broke through the tidal wave of my thoughts. "Christine," I said, turning to see one of my closest friends slide into the spot opposite me. "Couldn't have picked a better moment to twist the knife, could you?" I attempted to smile, but it faltered. "Please, I'm pretty sure I'm the one who's been stabbed today," she teased, her caramel skin glowing under the cafe's golden lights. She looked stunning, dressed for a day of brunch and adventure, and I remembered she had just come from an event where we had spoken only hours ago. My irritation snapped like a twig in the impending rain. "Tell me it went well," I said, cradling the ceramic cup. grateful for its warmth seeping through. Christine rolled her eyes in a dramatic flourish. Well, let's just say that my date, I use the term loosely, is more interested in my LinkedIn profile than anything else. She leaned closer, lowering her voice conspiratorially. I think he was trying to recruit me instead of flirt. I chuckled. That sounds like something I'd like to avoid. But what's the point of even having that dinner if you weren't remotely attracted? Don't think I didn't send an SOS, she said, laughing. But here's the kicker. Mere hours in and I was already comparing him to Malcolm. Now that's unfair competition. The mention of Malcolm ignited the apprehensive energy roiling in my stomach. I pressed my lips together, trying to stick to a casual posture, despite the hot electricity pulsing between us. You know he can make a room buzz just by walking in. Like he invented charm or something. More like he's playing a game, I muttered, though I hardly believed it. I glanced at the clock, feeling the weight of time closing in. Have you heard from him? Christine shrugged, her eyes scrutinizing me, honing in on the trepidation moodily curling around my heart. Don't let it get too wobbly. You know what they say about powerful men, right? They either love you fiercely or shatter you like a forgotten vase. I exhaled sharply, discomfort dancing with anger beneath my skin. He seems to love reveling in the gamble. It's like, I hesitated, searching for the right words that wouldn't fracture the burgeoning bond I felt, but desperately feared. It's like he already sees this as a game. Is it? Christine raised her eyebrow challengingly, swirling her coffee as if invoking truth swathes in froth. I mean, does he really just see you for your intellect? Or is there some other flame flickering there? I huffed, irritation bubbling just beneath the surface. That's just it. I don't want to be just an amusement to him while he parades through this world of shadows. The cafe door swung open, letting in a gust of damp air that carried the distant buzz of city life inside. Malcolm walked in, drenched in muted prestige, his tailored charcoal suit accentuating his powerful physique. My heart raced in a way that felt both thrilling and alarming as he captured the attention of the entire room without even trying. Speak of the devil, Christine murmured, her voice laced with mischief, eyes alight like a kid in a candy store. Hi there, Malcolm's drawl cut through the cafe noise, eyes landing on me with the intensity of a spotlight. The bitterness from earlier fizzled away, replaced by an electric anticipation. You're late, I said, my tone sharper than I intended, as I stood up, leaving Christine and her smirk momentarily forgotten. Late? Or fashionably delayed, Malcolm retorted, though there was an oppressive energy etched in his shaggy brows, a hurricane forming behind those deep-set eyes. I had some business to attend to. More games, I snapped back, though a part of me craved the intimate dance of our banter. Who was I kidding? I thrived off it, and the crackle of tension brought a sharp ache within me. Can we not do this here? He asked, glancing at Christine, who looked like a cat watching a particularly entertaining mouse. I'd rather not turn a lovely cafe into a battleground. Then how about expressing your desire to keep things civil while I still have the option of decaf? I ground out, my pulse hitching in my throat. I realized how much we had ignited, yet how close I was to being consumed by it. Let's step outside, Ava. The imperative in his voice sliced through my bravado, making my stomach tumble. Because that's what I need. More whispers, I spat, not backing down from his magnetic pull. The weight of his gaze felt tangible, sparking with the potential for combustion. Just outside, the first drops of rain began to patter against the pavement, mirroring the tension of the moment. I was thinking more along the lines of a place we could actually have a conversation, he said, voice low and inviting, though I caught the underlying tension beneath those words, suggesting our conversation was but a juncture for conflict. I turned to Christine, who leaned back on her chair, arms crossed and a wicked grin plastered on her face. You're gonna need a steel cage for the aftermath. Thanks for the vote of confidence, I sighed as I stepped outside, Malcolm following smoothly, his presence like an unspoken promise, stirring a tempest within me. The air shifted from cool to a shivering chill as rain flicked soft drops onto my skin. The streets glinted like they belonged in a film reel. It was beautiful, almost ethereal, except for the tension crawling between us. "What's going on, Malcolm?" I asked, the rain mixing with my rising frustration. His jaw clenched, a small movement that sent a spike of surprise racing up my spine. "Do you really think this is just some game to me? Because you boasted once that life is just a game, didn't you?" I shot back impulsively. "Don't reduce this to a statistic, a novelty," I challenged, the biting wind an echo of my bitterness. His frustration spilled out like the rain above, powerful and reckless. "You don't know what you're walking into." "I'm curious what I'm walking away from," I yelled, my voice rising above the drumming of the rain, bringing life to the tumult inside. "You skirt around emotions like they're an accessory, and I'm not an afterthought." His expression hardened, the tempest behind his shielded gaze unleashed like a rogue wave. "And what about you? You act as if vulnerability is weakness. I have built my world on strength, only to find yourself standing at the edge, waiting to jump." "I'm not just a leap of faith," I shot back, ire sharpening my focus. "Then why am I here?" he asked, voice low, thunder rolling behind the storm in his eyes. "Because you can't stay away. Because we both know this electricity isn't just coming from the rain." A sly grin broke through his tension, and I caught a flicker of his cool arrogance falter. "Electricity? Is that what this is?" I stepped closer, my pulse dancing, caught between defiance and a desire I could hardly contain. "Call it whatever you want, Malcolm, but you aren't just here for the diversion. Nor are you." He was so close now, our warm breaths fluttering against one another in the chilled air. What happens when the storm calms but leaves a mess behind? Then we clean it up. Then his mouth claimed mine, a collision of excitement and urgency that poured rain down onto everything around us. It was comprehension and perception, every chaotic sentiment curling into a soothing madness as we melded together, shattering the barriers we felt were indestructible. The rain fell harder, hitting our skin, a sharp contrast to the warmth rising between us. He grasped my waist, pulling me closer, and I surrendered to the desire, pouring everything I held back into the undulating cadence of our kiss, leaving the storm and our tensions behind. "Maybe we're more than just an impulse," he whispered against my lips as the rain resumed its passionate dance, merging our worlds into one. I grinned amidst the chaos. "Let's just hope the insurance covers emotional damage." "Don't worry, I know a great guy." We were drowning in a deluge of laughter, regardless of the thunder clouding the moment. The tension between us seamlessly morphed into a pulse of shared anticipation that promised a much-needed reckoning. With everything on the line, I could almost forget structure, demands, and secrets that might tear us apart. But it would be worth it. "Let's get out of here," I said breathlessly. "Together," he affirmed, his eyes darkened by commitment and a hint of mischief. And as the storm raged, I took his hand, ready to dive into the depth of uncertainty where passion and danger intertwined. Chapter 41. Underneath it all. "Ava, are you even listening?" I blinked and settled my gaze on Malcolm, the weight of his presence sharp amidst the warm, muted lighting of the penthouse. The stylish decor surrounded us, a mix of avant-garde art and plush furnishings that felt sophisticated yet intimate. I could barely hear the soft jazz playing in the background over the rushing thoughts in my head, but I had to focus. He deserved my attention, and I wanted to give it. "Sorry, what?" I asked, tapping my fingers nervously on the glass of red wine in front of me. He leaned forward, his dark brown eyes piercing mine. "This isn't just about the project. I need you on my side. Trust isn't given easily in my world." I opened my mouth to respond, but only silence emerged. His words lingered in the air, heavy like the scent of the vintage wine. I felt that familiar stir of trepidation. I loved the thrill of complexity inherent in investigative work, Yet standing so close to Malcolm, I was aware of the gravity of his world. My heart raced, teetering between caution and the undeniable pull towards him. Malcolm ran a hand through his effortlessly tousled hair, frustration flickering across his features. Ava, we can't keep dancing around this. You need to let me in. I'm not sure you really want that. My life is complicated. I turned my glass in circles, the wine sloshing against the clear crystal. Malcolm's fierce intensity clashed sharply against my instinct to keep my distance. Yet there I sat, enthralled in the game we played. I thought we were just colleagues, exploring possibilities. Is that what you think this is? His voice was low, laced with an intensity that nearly drew me in. The way he leaned closer, the fire in his gaze sent vibrations across my skin. You know it's more than that. You feel it. I swallowed hard. How dangerously easy it was to get lost in that fire. My fingers tingled where they brushed against the cool wine glass, but the heat radiating off him was irresistible, pulling me closer when I should have known better. Before I could respond, laughter echoed from the kitchen as our friends, Sam and Tessa, joined us. Are we interrupting a moment, or is this the serious face you two lovebirds make? Tessa teased, winking at us. I caught the hint of a smile breaking Malcolm's tense demeanor, but it was short-lived. Just a professional discussion, he replied, his tone deceptively casual. Right, Sam said, eyebrow arched as he poured himself a glass of whiskey. I've seen more chemistry in a science lab. His voice bounced around the airy room, lightening the heavy atmosphere. Very funny. I shot him a glare, warmth rising in my cheeks. It's not like you two are dripping with romance yourself. Oh, we're all about that, aren't we, babe? Sam wrapped an arm around Tessa dramatically. She rolled her eyes, laughing. As they exchanged playful banter, Malcolm's attention flicked back to me, a silent barrier forming between us amid the casual chaos. The tension hung like a fog, dense with unspoken words. I could sense the walls we both built. I wanted to tear them down, yet my fear of vulnerability loomed larger. Let's do a toast, Tessa interrupted, lifting her glass high, her eyes sparkling with mischief. To ambition, friendship, and making questionable life choices. We clinked our glasses together, laughter spilling into the air, but beneath it all, something raw threatened to unravel. I met Malcolm's gaze, and the world around us fell into a hush. The laughter faded, and all I could see was him, so close, so undeniably powerful. What's your real ambition, Ava? Malcolm asked, breaking the delicate silence. To be the best at what I do, I said confidently. Yet uncertainty flickered within. But sometimes I wonder if it's worth losing everything for success. Like what? He pressed, leaning in, his body radiating warmth like a live wire. Maybe love. Maybe having someone who gets me, who I can talk to without dancing around the truth. I held his gaze, daring him to respond, but instead, I saw something shift in his expression, a vulnerability I had scarcely glimpsed before. The idea that he might also be fighting against something deeper intrigued me. You're afraid of intimacy, he said, his words like a well-aimed arrow. Okay, Mr. Psychologist, and you're not? Fair point. He chuckled lightly, a soft sound that somehow invited but challenged all at once. Life is complicated, Ava. Trust is a luxury. The weight of his confession settled into the space between us. Sam and Tessa had shifted their attention to another conversation, leaving us in an intimate bubble of merely shared secrets. Then let's make it easy. What do you want? I asked, shifting my focus directly back to him. I want you. I want to navigate the chaos, the danger, everything. His words dripped with sincerity, and the heated tension between us threatened to explode. And what if, I hesitated, digging deep for the words I'd muddled in my mind. What if we're just fantasy for each other? What if I'm just not cut out for this kind of life? You know it's not all glitz and glamour. Life is rarely black and white, Ava. Everything worth having comes with risk. You just have to decide if I'm worth the leap. His boldness threw me for a moment, and I nearly lost my words. Before I could respond, he stood, moving so gracefully it took my breath away. I felt the heat radiating off him as he stepped closer to me, filling the space that had felt too wide just moments before. "What are you doing?" I almost whispered, my pulse racing at the thrilling tension. "Showing you something," he murmured. In one swift motion, he tilted my chin up, our gazes locking in an electrifying dance of need and understanding. "What is?" "No more what ifs tonight." His voice was low, almost a growl, and it ignited something deep within me. He inched closer, and suddenly the world fell away. Before I could catch my breath, his lips descended on mine, soft at first, but quickly igniting into something fierce and passionate. I felt the world dissolve into nothingness, each kiss a promise, each caress a plea for connection. My hands found their way into his hair, tugging slightly as we kissed. The warmth of him felt intoxicating. "Ava," he murmured against my lips, pulling away slightly, yet keeping me close. "You're every bit as real as I hoped you would be." "I can't help but feel scared of what this all means," I admitted, my breath coming in quick bursts. "Embrace it," he encouraged softly, brushing his thumb against my cheek. "We can navigate the complexity together." In that moment, everything melted away. The fear, the uncertainty, the doubts that bound me. I could feel the heat pouring off him as if he were a sun setting in the distance, offering light through the fog of my insecurities. Finally, I nodded, surrendering the hesitance that had so often kept me locked away. Our lips met again, deeper this time. It became a frantic dance of need and longing, and I felt the rush of something beyond passion, an undeniable connection. As he pulled me tightly against him, I gasped against the intensity of it all. Every kiss was a thrilling surge, and I knew I was diving into uncharted waters, surrendering to the very thing I struggled to accept. And when he lifted me, my body instinctively wrapping around him, it felt as though I belonged completely to this moment, to us. "Ava, I want you, not just tonight." He kissed me again, filling the space with heat. "I want all of you. Can you trust me enough to show you that?" I looked into his eyes, and the weight of the past, my fears, my ambitions, felt less like chains and more like threads, weaving us into something beautiful. "I think I can." As the laughter from Sam and Tessa faded into the haze of warmth, I pressed closer to him, knowing that underneath it all, we were creating something profound, something built on truth. The weight of our worlds felt heavy still, but the beauty of it, the connectivity, the fire of possibility, had us locked in a moment that felt beautifully unbreakable. "Together then," I whispered, my heart racing, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Chapter 42, Danger Around the Corner. The air hummed with an electric tension as I stood at the expansive window of Malcolm's penthouse, overlooking the shimmering skyline of the city. A steady breeze fluttered through, carrying the crisp scent of the approaching rain, and I could feel the impending storm in my bones. It mirrored the turmoil within me, each gust stirring a whirlwind of emotions that were as tumultuous as the dark clouds amassing above. Malcolm was at the other end of the room, scrolling through his phone while leaning against the sleek marble island. A glass of bourbon rested in his hand, and as I stole a glance, I could see the way the golden liquid caught the light, just like the moments we shared together, filled with warmth, yet veiled with shadows. It was as if the universe was reminding me that millions of dollars didn't shield you from chaos, nor could it easily drown out the whispers of intrigue calling our names. "You know, it's hard to focus when you're practically staring daggers into my back," he remarked, a teasing lilt in his tone, yet a hint of seriousness lingered under the surface. I shifted my gaze away, flushing hot. "I'm not staring daggers. I'm merely contemplating the complexities of your nature." A half smile played on my lips, but my heart raced, a fierce pulse of mixed desire and frustration igniting within me. I had spent too long on the sidelines, too long attempting to decipher the enigma that was Malcolm Orane. He turned then, the smile fading slightly as he met my eyes, searching, probing. Your contemplation seems to border on distrust, Ava. As the world outside darkened, mirroring the growing tension inside, I shrugged. Can you blame me? Secrets seem to be a part of your daily routine, don't they? You with your charming facade and smoky past. He placed the glass down, setting off a reverberation through the silence that followed. This isn't about me. You have your secrets too. I bristled, stepping towards him, the sharp click of my heels echoing like an accusation. I'm not the one tethered to the underbelly of crime, Malcolm. My secrets involve my career. Your world could eat me alive. Perhaps, he replied, voice low, brows furrowing in contemplation. But that keeps you from trusting me fully, doesn't it? You don't even want to admit that you care. Care? The word slipped from my lips, lighter than it should have felt. I don't care. I'm just trying to protect everything I've built. By building walls, he challenged, stepping closer. The distance that separated us felt like a chasm, yet it was charged with the unspoken, sparked by unresolved frustration and an electric attraction that simmered just beneath the surface. I hesitated, my pulse quickening as our eyes locked. I have no intention of becoming a pawn in your reckless game. His jaw clenched, showing a flicker of raw emotion beneath that usually calm exterior. This isn't a game to me, Ava. You matter. For a moment the air thickened, heavy with unacknowledged desire and mutual awareness. Suddenly the ground felt unstable beneath us, anticipation building as if the universe itself mourned the unsaid. But before I could respond, a harsh notification pinged through his phone, shattering the delicate moment. His eyes darted to the screen, and I could feel the shift in the room. It was as if a dark specter had entered, deflating the bubble we had nearly forged. Malcolm, I asked, dread creeping in my throat. Stay here, he ordered, his tone shifting to the steely command I'd grown both used to and wary of. I shook my head, determination igniting within. I'm not some delicate ornament to be tucked away. Just trust me. I don't want you involved in this, he snapped, and for a brief second, I saw fear flicker behind his dark eyes. Fear of the unknown. Fear for me. It was potent and disarming, leaving me caught between frustration and an overwhelming urge to reach out. Malcolm, you can't just treat me like I'm not capable. I am capable. My heart raced, the energy between us vacillating between anger and something more intense. I'm not backing down. His expression cooled as he straightened, but under his watchful gaze, I recognized something deep, a fierce protectiveness that was behind that charm and authority. Ava, please. Before he could finish, there was a loud bang, followed by a shattering sound from the other room. My reflexes kicked in, adrenaline spiking through every nerve. What was that? Malcolm grabbed my wrist, tugging me toward the wall, and my heart raced unnaturally fast as I felt the weight of his grip, a paradox of safety and danger. Stay here. I need to check it out. No, I hissed, shaking my wrist free. If this is anything close to what I think it is, I'm not about to let you handle it alone. Impulsive decisions got us into this mess. We were face to face now, emotions swirling like a storm. It was exhilarating and terrifying. Our eyes locked, a fierce challenge simmering in the air as we stood mere inches apart. What had begun as an argument shifted seamlessly into a dance of magnetic desires that begged to spiral out of control. Suddenly, he surged forward, invading my space, his breath warm against my face, the promise of chaos and safety mingling in the air. You think I'm going to let you put yourself at risk? Oh, is that what you care about? I shot back, feeling every phobist heartbeat drum in my veins. How you come off as my protector? No, he took a step back, raking a hand through his dark hair, as if catching a breath through the tangled emotions. I care about you, Ava. You're worth more than any risk I'm willing to take. That admission shifted something within me, I could almost hear the crack of the storm as it rolled closer, threatening to spill over the edges of my carefully contained world. "Then let me in," I shouted, as the walls that separated our lives felt flimsy under the assault of everything unspoken. "I'm not going anywhere. We both know that." Before either of us could react, another loud noise erupted, the crash of something heavy hitting the floor. It jolted me to action, and in an instant we were rushing toward the source. My heart thudded against my chest, an unholy mixture of fear and fierce excitement. "Together?" I asked, glancing up at him, searching for permission, validation. Malcolm caught my gaze, the trust flickering between us, confirming everything that mattered. "Always," he replied, the weight of his word anchoring me to him. The moment hung suspended, our hearts beating in unison as we braced ourselves for whatever lay ahead. I sensed the chaos could tear us apart, but it could also fortify us in ways we hadn't anticipated. As we stepped into the dimly lit corridor, the world outside was drowned in the rhythmic pounding of rain. The storm had finally arrived, but within the tempest, I felt a burgeoning sense of empowerment beneath the courage I had masked for too long. "Let's do this," I breathed. And together we walked into the danger ahead, my hand intertwining with his, declaring silently that no storm could forge us asunder. With every challenge we faced, we carved out a fiercer version of ourselves. There was danger around the corner, but so too was the fiery promise of love. Chapter 43. Divided Loyalties. It was the kind of day that felt heavy with impending rain, the kind where the clouds hung low and thick, as if ready to erupt at the slightest provocation. I sat at the sleek glass table in my apartment, the faint scent of fresh coffee swirling around me, grounding me in a moment that felt all too fragile. I leafed through my client reports, but they had reduced to a blur of numbers and letters on the page. My thoughts instead danced in the space between reality and something far more potent: Malcolm. The buzz of my phone startled me, shattering the quiet. "Hey, Ava, are you coming to Montclair's party tonight?" Tara's voice cracked through the screen, her laughter as vibrant as the bright pink of her kitchen walls. "I'm thinking about it," I replied, absently swirling my coffee. I would rather face his insatiable charm than deal with the chaos of my mind without a clear plan. "What's the crowd like?" "Oh, the usual suspects, everyone you've met." "But listen," she lowered her voice, drawing me in closer. "I need to tell you something important about Malcolm." My heart raced, warmth pooling in my cheeks as I thought of how he'd held me in his arms, his grip both possessive and protective. "What about him?" I asked, trying to suppress the rush of blood that I felt from looking back on our last heated exchange. "He's not exactly who he says he is, Ava. I found something." Tara was now on the edge of her seat, her voice dropping even lower. "You need to trust me on this." The joy I'd felt in his presence morphed into a distant echo. "What kind of something?" "Let's just say it's about his business dealings," she replied, each word a delicate hammer pounding away at my heart. "I need specifics," I said, panic and disbelief weaving through every syllable. "Tara, that sounds serious." "I'm going to check out a source. Just promise me you won't act rashly until you know the truth," she urged, her voice thick with urgency. "I can't just ignore it," I sputtered, the tether to Malcolm tautening like a coiled spring. "Just meet me at Montclair's," she insisted. "Let me dig a little deeper. If he's hiding something, we'll find it." With a deep breath, I nodded even though she couldn't see me. "Fine, I'll be there." We wrapped up the call with uncertainty, clinging to the cool fabric of my blouse. I felt a storm brewing, not just outside, but within. Storm clouds had rolled in, mirroring the tumult inside me. Emerging from my analytical haze, I couldn't shake the worry pressing down on me. When evening fell, the oppressive weather gave way to an atmosphere of wild festivity as music echoed down the halls of Montclair's penthouse. The cocktail party was a surge of laughter and clinking glasses, where the warmth of bodies brushed against one another like an electric current. I arrived feeling slightly out of place in my navy dress, a contrast to the reveling tide of sequins and exuberant colors surrounding me. "Look who finally decided to show," Tara chimed, her face alight with mischief. "You're missing all the good gossip." I laughed softly, but the tension coiled around my throat like an unwanted necklace. "You had a good lead?" I asked, scanning the lively crowd for Malcolm's familiar figure, aching in anticipation. "Not yet," she said, rolling her eyes as she took a sip of her bubbly drink. "But it's Montclair's party. Just give it time." "Did you call me here for gossip or a spin?" I asked, trying to maintain the playful banter, knowing I was already tethered to something greater than mere curiosity. "Who says you can't have both?" she winked. "Let's dance first, with our extravagant flares." Just as I began to unwind in the music and movement, I spotted him. Malcolm was impossibly handsome in a tailored suit, his presence commanding the room like a conductor leading a symphony. I felt that familiar pull, a siren's beckoning from the sea, but tonight, gilded in uncertainty, it made me hold my breath. "Are you headed toward him?" Tara asked, grabbing my arm as I hesitated momentarily. It's complicated," I replied. His eyes sparkled with a darkness that had been both comforting and challenging. "Complicated is my middle name, girl. There is absolutely no reason to let doubt spoil what could be a night of divine solutions," she assured me. As I approached him, Malcolm's smile lit up the darkness outside, an illuminating contrast to the gray sky. Yet doubt lingered in the periphery. "Evening, Ava. You look stunning," he said, and his warmth wrapped around me like a cashmere blanket. "Good to see you, Malcolm," I replied, trying to sound nonchalant. "Tara was just telling me about the party." "Ah, yes, my dear event planner always over-delivers," he chuckled, the steady rhythm of his voice lulling me into a quiet sense of safety. But the words Tara had spoken pulsed like a warning siren in my mind. A few moments slipped by, filled with casual talk, until Tara interjected. "Ava's been busy being a powerhouse at work, haven't you? Always with those high competency levels." "To be fair, the software isn't going to test itself," I quipped, then felt Malcolm's gaze sharpen, energy crackling under the surface. "True, but I'm more interested in who you might work with." His expression shifted into something more alluring, and tension mounted, a prelude to something electrifying yet precarious. As the music began to swell, Tara declared, "Let's dance. Let's celebrate Ava's power moves." She strategized her way onto the dance floor, leaving Malcolm and me momentarily cloistered in anticipation. "I could showcase some power moves of my own," he said, his tone dancing between flirtation and a deeper undercurrent laced with danger. I felt the pulse of the bass resonate within me, urging me to follow his lead. "Why don't you show me?" The tease slipped from my lips before I could think, a dare that ignited something wickedly thrilling. He smirked, holding out his hand. "Let's give them something to talk about." As I took his hand, the warmth spread like wildfire up my arm, the sensation both thrilling and potentially perilous. He led me to the beats, bodies swirling around us, the energy morphing into something joyous yet urgent. We lost ourselves, spinning and laughing, a delightful escape from the whirlwind of the outside world, and all the noise disappeared, leaving only the two of us. "Is it just me, or do we have our own rhythm?" I asked breathlessly, letting go of my inhibitions, my body leaning into his. He smiled down at me, his gaze filled with something heated, something dangerous that sent flutters rippling through my core. "It's always been our rhythm, a beautiful dissonance that pulls us together." Yet, the other voice in my head echoed, "What if it's only a melody concealed under secrets?" The thought flitted reluctantly across my mind, only to be consumed as he drew me closer, his breath soft against my ear, igniting an unquenchable need within me. "Are you ready to discover just how powerful that attraction can be?" His whisper danced over my skin, spiraling desire molten within me. "Yes," I breathed, the affirmation coming out raw and earnest, punctured by the pulse of the music that folded around us. Malcolm's lips brushed against my neck, igniting a firestorm in my veins. And as if caught in a tender spell, we began to slip into movement that merged lust and tenderness. Our bodies intertwined like vines, and every pulse of the music became a universe of shared longing, a harmonic chaos spilling over. "Is this what you wanted?" He grinned, the hint of mischief playing on his lips, as we swayed with abandon, his hands cradling my waist, my heart racing beneath his touch. "The dance?" I teased, though my voice trembled, rising with anticipation. "Something more," he whispered, mischief tinging his breath, drawing me further into the whirlpool of his gaze. The crowd seemed to fade, leaving just the two of us in our sculpted world, testing the limits of our connection. And I could feel the weight of Tara's warning looming ever closer as I melted against him. "For the record, this isn't just a dance to me. There's a truth in the way you fit into my arms," he replied, his fingers trailing down my back, igniting fire where they grazed. "Stop it before I get lost," I laughed breathlessly, unable to resist the pull. "Lost can be freeing," he replied, his voice graveling with sense of intimacy that sent shivers down my spine. "Tonight, let me help you find the beauty of being lost." "I'm not sure if I'm ready to let go," I murmured, though my body instinctively pressed closer, succumbing to the thrilling uncertainty between us. "But what if tonight is the very moment you break free to something untamed?" Malcolm prompted, his voice dropping into that seductive timbre that made me crave him all the more. "I want to discover all the beauty. But what if it shatters?" I countered, the remnants of Tara's words echoing in my mind. "Then we'll rebuild it," he responded fervently, stepping back just enough to pierce the veil of my uncertainty with honest eyes. Together. And it felt as if the world around us paused, as if the rain was the only witness to the promise tethered between us, a promise laden with complexity and fire. My heart surged, torn between the pulse of desire and the shadows of the truth lurking beneath. But then, from across the room, Tara's voice broke through the haze of desire, filled with urgency. "Ava, you need to hear this." I felt my breath catch as Malcolm held my gaze, tension swirling uncomfortably in the pit of my stomach. "You don't just tap into together and then run away from the truth," he whispered, as if sealing the weight of every unspoken word between us. "Wait," I said, torn between his magnetic essence and the chilly reality of what allegedly lay ahead. "I need to confront whatever this is." With one last lingering look, I turned toward Tara, the thrill of his promise still crackling against my skin. Uncharted territory lay ahead, and I'd have to decide which path I'd choose, and if love indeed could conquer all. "Love and loyalty are a dangerous dance," Malcolm murmured to himself, watching me disappear into the crowd. But as I stepped into the tumult, I vowed to uncover every thread of truth, however beautiful, however painful, because tonight would set the tone for everything to come. This battle wasn't just for our hearts, it was for our souls, for the chance to weave something strong and true amidst the world's shadows. "Will you really be willing to fight?" he called after me, the challenge resting between us like an old flame, immediate, palpable, and echoing deep within, as I stepped into my newfound destiny, more than ever. The night was young, and within its chaos, I felt love, the kind that could ignite revolutions, and could also shatter the very fabric of our entwined souls. It was time to face what was ahead. Loyalty, after all, is the ultimate test of love. Chapter 44, Testing Boundaries. The storm loomed over Manhattan, dark clouds swirling like the tempest inside me. Raindrops started as a gentle patter against the windows of Malcolm's penthouse, morphing into a rapid downpour that mirrored the chaos of my thoughts. Each drop echoed like my heart, a relentless thrum insisting I confront the storm brewing between us. "Are you going to just stand there all day?" Malcolm's teasing voice broke me from my reverie. He leaned casually against the kitchen island, a contrasting image to the boiling atmosphere. The sarcasm in his tone belied a playful invitation, Yet the intensity in his eyes bore into me, demanding acknowledgement of the tension swirling unsaid. "Isn't that your specialty? Standing and waiting?" I shot back, a smirk curling my lips as I crossed my arms. The suggestion dripped with double meaning, both a jab at his tendency to orchestrate situations and a veiled acknowledgement of our own unnerving silence. He stepped closer, the scent of sandalwood washing over me, intoxicating. "You know, if this were a different scenario, I'd tell you to wear something more revealing." His eyes traveled down my fitted black dress, a provocative sway in his gaze that ignited the heat creeping up my neck. I chuckled, my bravado kaleidoscoping into intrigue. "What, you think I'd strut around like a trophy for your entertainment? All that brilliance, and you can't recognize a little flirtation?" His voice dropped, a rich baritone pulse that sent shivers down my spine. "Maybe I want you to shed the armor just this once." The air thickened between us, a palpable charge. "And maybe that's the problem, Malcolm." My words dripped with challenge. "You think you can just peel back layers without considering what's underneath." His gaze held mine, unflinching. "And you think I'm afraid of what I'll find," he replied. A faint smile tugged at his lips, but the seriousness lingered in his eyes. I stepped back, feeling the cool tile of the kitchen floor beneath my bare feet, a precarious reminder of my grounded ambition. "You don't get it, do you? I'm not playing in your world. Not now, not ever." "Is that so? Then let's see who makes the first move." He jabbed his chin toward the door, the tone having shifted to something more challenging, eliciting a mix of vulnerability and exhilaration within me. "I'm still waiting for an invitation," I replied, defiance sparking behind my words. Before I could reconsider, Malcolm jerked the door open. The gust of wind enveloped me, rain spilling inside like an overzealous host at a wild party. "Let's get out there, Ava. Time to get reckless." I hesitated for a moment, my pulse racing as the raindrops danced in chaotic rhythm. "Are you suggesting we run into that storm?" He grinned, his eyes alive with mischievous fervor. "Not just run. Storm chase. Just trust me." And just like that, as my mind drifted into the possibilities, I stepped out into the downpour. He sprinted ahead, laughter punctuating the air, a wild sound coated with droplets. It was infectious. I followed closely, the throbbing of the rain matching the euphoric crescendo building within me. "Tell me you never did this as a kid," he shouted back. I had a little more decorum. As the sky crackled with energy, I splashed through puddles, soaked to the bone, my laughter escaping like a released balloon, buoyed into the stormy winds. It felt liberating, especially in the company of the man who had effortlessly tugged me from my meticulously constructed world. "Decorum, huh?" he repeated, catching my eye before running ahead to a lamppost where rivulets streamed down like silver chains. "Is that really how you identify yourself?" I shrugged, swinging my arms wide as if to invite the sky to soak me with its secrets. "We can't all play super spy billionaire with a taste for the theatrical." Malcolm approached, his expression a mix of mock betrayal and feigned offense. "Don't you ever find it exciting?" "Sure, when you're pretending to be a normal human being once in a while." "Okay, I'll give you that one," he admitted, his eyes sparkling with playful rebellion. "But sometimes, being normal just doesn't quite cut it." With a sudden turn, he engulfed me in his arms, bringing a halt to our laughter as I melted against him. The rain thudded against our bodies, but the warmth emanating from him was intoxicating, all-consuming. "Do you really want to know what I think cuts it?" I asked, my heart racing with something fierce and unfiltered. "Always. That's what we're here for, right?" His breath seethed with promise. And just like that, the barrier I'd erected around my heart began to quake. I needed to test the waters, to echo my own desires. "What if I told you I'm done being polite?" His eyes sparkled, as if he'd been waiting for the moment. Now that's a conversation I can dive headfirst into. With that, I pulled back, playfully darting away, beckoning him with a provocative grin. He chased me, laughter mingling with raindrops, our sounds harmonizing with the thunder in the distance. as we reached a nearby cafe, breathless and soaked. The heated ground beneath us transformed into electric energy as the storm roared outside. The cafe's dim light wrapped around us like a cocoon. Shadows hiding half-formed ideas, too raw to confront. Between shivering fits of laughter, I said, "See, I'm determined to be spontaneous, but at the same time, I could really use a change of clothes." Malcolm leaned back against the bar, almost smug. "Right? Don't you just feel a rush?" "Right up until you put me in wet jeans," I shot back, the familiarity breathing life into our heated banter, all while noting the storm's calm retreat. "Not my fault you didn't pack an umbrella," he quipped, subtly eyeing me as a sudden rush of warmth flooded back into the dialogue. "Fine, I'll accept that challenge, but only if we make a pact. You reveal one truth about your extravagant life, and in return, I get to ask you anything." "Anything?" His brows shot up, almost impressed. "You might want to tread lightly." "Don't underestimate my curiosity, Malcolm," I shot back, leaning closer, the thrill coursing through us like electricity. "Let's see how far this goes." He paused, considering. "Then here goes. My life isn't always as sensational as it appears. There are shadows." "Shadows? Is this a confession, Orane? Setting us up for therapy?" I teased, leaning further into the banter, but I could see the fortification in his eyes, the flicker of hesitation eclipsing his laughter. He leaned in, matching my intensity. "You have no idea how much I'd give to share those." The unspoken ghosts lingered between us. But before we could dig deeper, the cafe's sun-washed light found us again, and the rain quieted down into a soothing patter. "Okay, your turn." I cornered him with my playful stare. "Fine," he exhaled, more serious now. "I grew up in a world where vulnerability was a liability. Weakness could mean losing everything." "I think you're missing the point." I paused, measuring his vulnerability as taut lines explored uncharted territory. "Vulnerability doesn't equate to weakness, Malcolm. It's where true strength emerges." "Interesting." His gaze deepened, consideration twinkling beneath his sharp intelligence. "And do you think exploring that with me means we'll drown?" With a light laugh, I took a chance, setting the mood ablaze. "Maybe we should dive in together, just to test the waters?" His sudden seriousness pulled me closer, locking my gaze onto his unfiltered intent. "If we're testing anything, Ava, I want to know we'll float even in turbulent waters. No secrets that divide us." "Deal," I replied, conviction frosting my words. "But only if you learn to paddle too. We can't be secretive with shadows and storms brewing around us." "Then let's change that." His resolve ignited my spirit, our gazes colliding until emotion cascaded from the well he'd opened. The conversation spun deeper, fingers brushing. My heart thumped in dangerous rhythms, a vibrant standoff, half tempted by curiosity, but wary of the raw edges we'd expose. The storm still raged outside, but inside, we danced on the knife's edge of vulnerability. As I leaned into him, the warmth enveloped me, a reminder that the storm didn't have to be a harbinger of chaos. Embracing his pulse against my skin, I felt invigorated. "Let's get reckless," he whispered, his lips brushing against my ear, sending electric shivers down my spine. With a deep breath, I replied, "Reckless, we'll see if that floats or sinks us." He claimed my mouth, and the world faded around us, rain tapping on glass like applause heralding the intimacy spilling within our embrace. Each kiss ignited passion, fervor climbing higher, our souls aligned amidst the storm, urging us to explore every boundary we dared to cross. The wildness of the storm brought a continuity of laughter, deepening desire, and even the quiet acceptance of possible endings. We were adrift, yet somehow tethered more firmly than ever. "Maybe this is reckless after all," I managed between breaths, pausing for fear our emotional boundaries might splinter. "Maybe," he mused, stroking my hair softly, the intensity morphing into tenderness. "But if we're testing boundaries, let's discover what binds us." The rain outside fell in a rhythm, a mirroring chaos that echoed against our own tumultuous dance, testing limits until the storm ultimately subsided, just as my fear did, wrapped in the protective embrace of something beautifully unpredictable. Chapter 45. Whirlwind Romance. The sweet, musky scent of fresh basil filled the air as I carefully chopped the vibrant green leaves, my knife gliding through the delicate stems with a precision that spoke to my love for all things culinary. Each slice sent fragrant droplets wafting up, teasing my senses, while the soft rhythm of the knife against the cutting board offered a soothing, almost martial cadence. In the kitchen, I always found clarity, a sense of control that seemed to elude me elsewhere in my life. But the simmering pot of marinara sauce on the stove was only half my focus. I could feel the warm evening sun filtering through the kitchen windows, casting playful shadows onto the walls. And each moment separated me from my mind's incessant wrestling match. A half-hearted smile tugged at my lips as I imagined Malcolm entering through that same door, with his natural air of command, and an indiscernible tension swirling around him, brightening even the most mundane task. "You know, they say cooking is an act of love," he would tease, leaning against the archway, his arms crossed in that effortlessly poised way that made me want to challenge him. "But with you, it's more like a culinary battlefield." "Careful, Malcolm," I'd say, glancing back with a mock-serious expression. "You might find yourself engulfed in a tomato war if you keep making jokes." He'd laugh, that deep, rumbling sound that wrapped around me like a sonorous embrace. I twisted my focus back to the basil, as if resisting the magnetism of my own thoughts. He was still a mystery I was trying to decipher, a puzzle that threatened to challenge everything I knew about myself. Just then, the sound of a key jiggling in the lock sent a quick jolt through me. My heart thumped, rhythmic and erratic, as he stepped inside. His silhouette against the fading light was striking, a sturdy frame cloaked in tailored linen, a beacon of effortless finesse. "Ava?" His eyes found me almost instantly, a gleam of mischief dancing beneath the dark lashes. "Are we cooking, or are you reserving this for an extreme sport?" "Cookbooks are too mainstream," I teased, narrowly missing the chance for vulnerability, a feeling I had been tussling with since we'd met in the boardroom. "Besides, I think I've mastered the art of cooking with a side of chaos." Malcolm stepped forward, his gaze assessing the pot bubbling away on the stove. "Chaos can lead to creative breakthroughs. Just ask any artist." "That sounds far too philosophical for a man who just got his PhD in procurement negotiations," I shot back, feeling the air thick with the unspoken currents. Then, with an effortless movement, he swiped the knife from my hand, the shift of power so intrinsic it sent a thrill racing down my spine. "I think you'll find I'm exceptionally good at wielding a different kind of sharp instrument." I was taken aback, or swiftly enthralled. "Sharp?" He stepped closer, the distance between us electrifyingly narrow now. "You're keeping me on my toes, Ava. I like that." Before I could respond, the kitchen became enveloped in a paradoxical silence, thick as molasses, yet rife with unspoken tension. We stood there, caught in our whirlwind, poised on the brink of something tantalizing. "Should we finish dinner?" I suggested, forcing myself to sound casual, as though I hadn't felt butterflies really take flight in my stomach. "In a minute. How about we see how you fare against me in a whirlwind romance?" He flashed a grin that felt alarmingly mischievous, a flash of something that sparked curiosity, igniting a desire I didn't think I needed to explore. Before I knew it, he lunged forward, hand gripping my wrist and pulling me toward him. I gasped, my heart racing like a runaway train. He wasn't gentle, not with the hunger that glinted in his gaze. Every beat thrummed with anticipation as his body aligned mine, a balance of chaos in the most exquisitely divine way. "Malcolm," I started, but the words slipped again, lost in the haze between what I knew and what he made me feel. "Shh," he murmured, arching an eyebrow, and drew me tighter against him. "Let's not pretend we're not both curious about what follows." He hesitated for a long moment, as if granting me the power to retreat, then dipped his lips closer to mine, teasing the line between longing and restraint. The whisper of his breath against my cheek sparked warmth all the way down to my toes. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his voice thick with gravitas. "I want to," I answered, my heart pounding fiercely, questioning not the answer, but the nuances hidden within the intent. This dance, we were acutely aware that the stakes were high, laid bare against the open flame. Before I could chew through an ounce of skepticism, he surged forward, claiming my mouth with a fervor that turned the air around us electric. It was a passionate, consuming kiss that seized my reason, igniting every nerve in my body. I responded instinctively, matching his fervor as my hands tangled in his hair, gripping him closer. No retreat, merely surrendering to an evident flame we both kindled. Then it happened, that moment where the boundaries melted, and it was just the two of us in this chaotic swirl of heat and tempo. Our lips crashed again, this time slow yet recklessly hungry, each brush igniting sparks of boldness washed over with longing, playfulness, and tension. Each kiss felt like a deliberate pull of the right strings, orchestrated in the symphony of our connection. "Unbelievable," I whispered between breaths, as his lips glided down my neck. "Are we really doing this here?" "Why not?" he chuckled softly, continuing the exploration of my skin like a painter savoring every stroke of a masterpiece. "But what about dinner?" I stumbled over the words, half laughing, half lost in rapture. "Dinner can wait," he murmured against my collarbone. "You're unbelievable," I gasped as his mouth captured my pulse point, the sensation making flames lick along my spine. "Unbelievably charming," he teased back, lifting his gaze to meet mine, his eyes flickering with promise. "This is hardly typical," I panted, more breathless than I had anticipated. As he stepped back just enough for me to catch my breath, he took a leisurely moment to assess the flush in my cheeks and the lingering proximity still buzzing between us. "You've never thought of me as typical, have you?" "Hardly." With a sudden urgency, he nestled himself against the kitchen island and looked at me with that predatory grace only he could project. "You know we both have our secrets, Ava." The words hung in the air, heavy like a storm brewing just beneath the horizon. My heart raced at the thought of who we still were beneath this unfolding intimacy. "What if I decide to keep some of mine?" I challenged. Malcolm grinned, unfurling a crackle of tension that softened the moment. "Wouldn't that be a marvel?" I tilted my head as I felt his gaze linger, introspective yet insatiable. "Just remember, secrets have a way of coming out." "Like flames on a mismanaged feast," he replied, the corner of his mouth curling into a slight grin. "Then let's set the kitchen ablaze together." It was an invitation wrapped in thorny playfulness as he charged forward, his hands sweeping around my waist. I pressed my body against him again, this time wholly yielding, letting the currents of heat wrap around me. "Dinner can simmer in its own sauce," I grinned. "I like the way you think," he said, dipping lower to capture my lips in that intoxicating kiss again. All-consuming, every ounce of uncertainty slipping away. How had we arrived here, in this paradox of chaos and warmth? Not like oil and water, but like stars and night, a collision of two worlds, having waited far too long to collide, brimming with uncharted paths. Yet, amidst that blissful uncertainty, I sensed the shadows lurking at the fringes, beckoning within the forgotten recesses of him. His hidden secrets that might unravel my own heart if I were not careful. So I reveled in the moment, savoring every passionate inflection of this whirlwind romance that could either elevate us or consume us whole. And in that delicious mix of fear and desire, I wondered if I even wanted to look back now. "What next?" he whispered, the twinkle in his eyes dancing with mischief. "Just don't burn my sauce." We laughed together, the laughter underscoring the palpable chemistry simmering just beneath the surface as we danced around this delectable edge. The kitchen turned into a haven. I was suddenly exhilarated, anew, and ready for whatever spell we would weave together. "Buckle up," I teased, leaning against him, our breaths as one. "This will be one wild ride." And just like that, I dared to embrace that storm, alive in every unexpected twist. Chapter 46, Secrets Revealed. The rain had begun to pound against the windows, a chaotic symphony that felt far too much like my current mental state. I huddled over Malcolm's glass coffee table, flipping through documents strewn across it as if they might reveal answers I desperately needed. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, frustration slipping into my voice. He leaned against the mantel, arms crossed, his gaze fixed unwaveringly on me. "Because it's complicated, Ava. I didn't want to drag you into this mess." "That's exactly what you're doing," I shot back, tossing a file onto the stack with more force than necessary. "I've built my career on transparency, and I thought we had something real above all the noise." Malcolm's dark eyes glinted with the tempest outside, full of hidden storms as his silence enveloped the room. "What if you knew the truth and it scared you? What if the shadows I dwell in were too dark?" I felt a jolt of energy pass between us. The air thickened like honey in a heated pot. "Scare me? I'm in the business of navigating shadows, Malcolm. What scares me is feeling like I've been made a fool." A half smirk tugged at the corners of his mouth. "So you think I wanted to be this person? To draw you in and risk everything?" The corner of my own mouth corked up momentarily. "Well, when you're a billionaire with hidden ties," I paused, shaking my head, trying to release the tension in my shoulders. "I mean, it's not exactly a cliché romance." "Is that what you think it is? A romance?" Malcolm stepped closer, the warmth for his body somehow fighting against the chill radiating through the rain-slicked panes. "Ava." He turned towards screeching voices echoing outside, where our friends were inching closer, poised to join the unfolding drama. Beth pushed open the door with a gust of wind. "Why are you two all squinty-eyed and fierce? Is someone stealing your thunder, or did you finally decide to confess your undying love?" She sidled over, glancing between us with a playfulness that softened the intensity in the air. "Just discussing business," I replied curtly, trying to regain control. My heart raced, a mix of anger and some unbidden thrill that complicates everything. "Nothing's just business when you've got Malcolm Orane in the room," Jared chimed in as he stepped in behind Beth, adjusting his spectacles like a detective arriving at a scene of a puzzling crime. "What did I tell you about secrets? They're like sandwiches. Once you start picking them apart, it just gets messy." Perfect analogy coming from a communications expert. I rolled my eyes, but a smile slipped through the cracks of my frustration. Malcolm merely chuckled, and the warmth of it caused a stir in my stomach. "That's an interesting way to slice it, Jared. But this isn't a deli. It's much more like a minefield, and I don't mean to endanger my friends." "Well, consider us to be living in an adventure novel. We thrive on chaos." Beth joined in, striking a mock superhero pose, which made Jared mimic her with an exaggerated flourish. I couldn't help but chuckle despite myself, but my laughter propelled me right back to the demons I was battling. I steeled myself, the rain lashing harder against the window, echoing the pulsing tension that simmered between me and Malcolm. "Look," I said, shifting the conversation, "can't you just say what's going on? I can't be a partner in your life if I don't know what's at stake." Malcolm regarded me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "I never meant to keep you in the dark. I wanted to protect you." "From what?" I was daring, yet vulnerable. Whatever this is that we're building, you think hiding leaves that intact?" "It's not just about us, Ava. There are greater forces at play." His voice softened but remained haunted. The fire crackled behind Malcolm, casting shadows that danced along the walls as if mocking the weight of his secrets. The rain thrashed on, the wind howling like it had a bone to pick with our fragile peace. "What is it? Tell me." My voice cracked with urgency and longing. Looking over towards Jared and Beth, Malcolm seemed to weigh his words. "Some dealings, investments that link back to interests I've tried to sever." His voice trailed off. Link back to what? You're only making me more paranoid, Malcolm. I realized my voice had escalated, but it felt like there was no way to temper the whirlwind within me. Okay, listen. He gestured for calm. And somehow, the atmosphere shifted. Let's clear the air. We can figure this out together. Just trust me. You want trust? I shot back. How can I trust you when I don't even know the extent of your world? Because. His voice was low now, more personal. I want you to be part of it. To stand by my side. It's not just about the business dealings. And then came his admission, laden with tension. This fight, whatever it is, I want to explore it together. That's my investment. Instinctually, I stepped closer, the palpable chemistry between us crackling like electricity. Then stop hiding, I whispered, fear threading through my emotional fervor. I deserve to know. Before he could respond, Beth, with her playful demeanor still intact, chimed in. And we deserve drinks. That's the thing about chaos, my friends. It calls for a toast. Jared clapped his hands together, attempting to levitate the mood. I'm thirsty for some chaos. How about you? Wine? Beth raised her eyebrows in question. Oh, please. I waved my hand dismissively, surprising myself with a rush of laughter. If we're diving into chaos, let's do it properly. Where's the whiskey? Now that's what I'm talking about, Jared exclaimed, and Malcolm's eyes darkened momentarily, the glimmer from earlier returning with a force. As Beth headed for the small bar in the corner, Malcolm faced me again, his expression suddenly serious. Ava, this isn't just about drink and revelry. I need you to know. Later, I interrupted sharply, feeling a bubbling energy that wanted to escape. Part anxiety, part thrill. Right now, I need something different. Beth returned with a bottle of whiskey, uncorked it with a flourish, and we raised our glasses, laughter mixing with tension. Despite the chaos brewing between Malcolm and me, I could feel the warmth flooding back into the room like the spice of the whiskey burning down my throat. To chaos, I toasted, my smile lingering much longer than it should have. To chaos, they all echoed, and the room began to flicker with mirth as I caught Malcolm's eye, a connection that felt like all secrets intertwined, hovering just beneath the surface. I'll drink to us, Malcolm said, raising his glass higher. But Ava, trust isn't just a toss away. I don't want to leave you with half-truths. Then don't, I insisted, feeling the heat escalate within me. Tell me the whole story now, or I swear I'll hunt you down, even if it becomes my life's work. The spark of our rising argument ignited something in both of us, a push and pull that started to shift into combustible energy. His eyes darkened with a knowing glance, and without saying another word, Malcolm stepped forward and wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close. The room fell silent. Dance with me, he murmured, his lips brushing against my ear. Waves of tension momentarily dulled as I nodded, my heart pounding wildly. With the rain crashing outside and our friends giggling in the background, I swayed into him, his warmth enveloping me as I pressed my body against his, longing mingling with unadulterated heat. That's your move? I teased, allowing myself to lean in closer. Play the knight in shining armor right before you reveal the dragon lurking beneath? Wouldn't you prefer the dragon, he asked, a playful glimmer flashing in his eyes. Because I have every intention of sweeping you off your feet before I lay bare the truth. And with that, his lips found mine, a connection that felt both exhilarating and terrifying, wrapping us both in an embrace that ignited that simmering tension. The world fell away. The argument, the past, the secrets, they all evaporated in the tempest of his kiss. I didn't care to pull away. His warmth enveloped me, drowning out the sound of raindrops. All that existed was this moment, and the thrilling uncertainty of what lay ahead. An adventure kindled in chaos, passion, and a growing connection that refused to back down. Tomorrow could be a battleground. Tonight was ours. As our lips parted, I whispered, "Let the chaos reign. I'm ready." He smiled, his eyes sparkling, as I clutched him tighter, daring to plunge headfirst into the uncharted depths where danger and desire danced. Chapter 47. Friends in the Mix. The late afternoon sun poured through the tall glass windows of my office, casting a warm glow on the scattered papers, case analyses that felt more like a lifeline than a simple work project. I rubbed my temples, fighting against the dull throbbing that always seemed to creep in when I was deep in thought. Malcolm. His presence lingered in my mind like the faint scent of sandalwood cologne that clung to my blazer. I could still feel the weight of his gaze, the electric charge between us that buoyed my pulse. Each time I thought of him, feelings stirred beneath my skin, familiar yet disorienting. The door swung open suddenly, and in hopped Jasmine, my vivacious friend and confidant. With her radiant smile and infectious laugh, she illuminated the room. Clad in a bold yellow sundress that floated around her knees, she breezed into my day with a flourish. "Ava, you look like a deer caught in headlights, a little too serious for my taste." She tossed her purse onto the chair like she was shedding burdens. "And wait, are those untouched croissants I see on your desk? We both know those should be demolished, not forgotten." "Not forgotten, just negotiating with my willpower," I replied, smirking despite myself as I reached for one. The flaky pastry crumbled on my fingers, filling the air with buttery warmth. "Care to join me?" "Only if you promise to indulge," she teased, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Now tell me, what's really going on? You haven't mentioned Malcolm for days, and that's a crime in my book." Behind her playful demeanor, I could sense the deeper layers of concern. "We've just been busy, that's all. A lot of work." "Interesting choice of words," she shot back, a glint in her eye. "You know he's trouble, right?" "A charming kind of trouble, but trouble nonetheless." "You're dancing on a volcano, girlfriend." I clenched my jaw, tightening my grip on the now crumbled croissant. "I'm well aware of the stakes, Jasmine, but you don't get it. He's more than that. There's this whole world beneath him that I can't quite grasp, like a puzzle I keep trying to solve. It's intoxicating." "Intoxicating?" "Ava, just make sure you're not the one getting burned," she advised, her tone sharp yet tender. "You're only 30. Life's too short to play with fire if you can't handle the heat." "I can handle the heat," I insisted, the words tumbling out with more conviction than I felt. Did I really mean that? "Right, but you also need to remember well, Malcolm is not exactly daddy material." "Let's leave my days of daddy issues out of this," I replied, chuckling nervously. "Am I wrong?" Jasmine leaned closer, her voice lowering conspiratorially. "You know he has secrets, right? And a certain distance, even when he's being charming." "Mystery doesn't scare me, Jazz. It draws me in. Besides, I can handle a few complications." "Complicated is an understatement. Listen, have you even talked about your feelings, or are we still playing tug-of-war with your heartstrings?" She arched an eyebrow, her confidence unwavering. "I'm figuring it out," I muttered, the admission tasting bitter on my tongue. Was I really doing that? Or was I just stalling, afraid of what lay outside my meticulously crafted world? "Well, figure it out fast." "Anyway," she said, switching gears, piecing together a plan in her mind. "Let's spice this up. Why don't we have a get-together? You know, a little distraction. Friends, music, and maybe a few cocktails." "Bring Malcolm along." Jasmine's excitement was contagious, but I winced internally. I don't know, he might need to take a break from his dark dealings and broken hearts. "Come on, Ava. Life is already demanding enough without you locking yourself away in this fortress of solitude." "Fine, we'll do it." The words tumbled from my lips before I could think them through. "But I have to invite Brian, too. It'll be interesting." Jasmine's eyes sparkled, mischief brimming over. "Oh boy, let the games begin." The evening crept upon us like a thief in the night, bringing with it a sense of unease, lining my stomach. As I arranged the small space in preparation for my friends, the tempting aroma of rosemary and garlic wafted in from the kitchen. My place was about to transform into a hub of laughter and life. Yet the thought of Malcolm entering those doors simmered beneath the surface like bubbling lava. The doorbell rang, and my heart raced as I pranced to answer, thrilled to distract my mind. The moment I swung open the door, Malcolm appeared, tall and sophisticated as ever, a tailored blazer hugging his shoulders perfectly. Yet I sensed a cautious intensity dancing behind his warm smile. "Hello, Ava," he drawled, his voice rich and familiar, laced with something unplaceable. He stepped inside, a brooding energy surrounding him. "Malcolm, glad you could make it," I said, with an exaggerated cheeriness that I hoped masked the butterflies swirling in my chest. "Wouldn't miss it. I had a feeling I'd find you organizing chaos." The smirk on his lips made my heart skip, igniting every nerve in my body, but I was momentarily distracted as I turned to check the timer on the oven. Just a little preparation. Nothing chaotic here," I fumbled, peering at him through the kitchen archway. As if on cue, Jasmine burst into the room with an exuberant hug around Malcolm's waist. "Look who made it, everyone! Our dark knight in shining armor." She meant it lightheartedly, but I caught the barely concealed glances exchanged among our group over the unspoken complexities Malcolm brought into the room. "Hey, Gladys, come meet this fine specimen," she beamed, showcasing him like a trophy. Brian, my on-again, off-again crush, swept in with a beautifully balanced cocktail in hand. "Malcolm Orane, huh? What's it like being so incredibly infuriatingly competent at everything?" He raised an eyebrow, mischief dancing in his voice. Malcolm chuckled. "It's a burden, really, but someone has to bear it." As chatter filled the room, the darker undertones began to unveil themselves. The laughter danced in edges, subtexts lurking like shadows in plain sight. Yet there was a thrill in this, an exhilarating chaos that wrapped around us all, sealing us into a moment suspended from the world outside. Amidst the animations of friendly exchanges, I felt an arc of tension unfurling between Malcolm and Brian. Every barbed quip threatened to flash, igniting an undercurrent of jealousy that was impossible to ignore. "Did Ava tell you about her last cyber project?" Brian prodded, taking a sharp jab at Malcolm's ego. "You should be impressed. She practically hacked a private corporate server with nothing but a dream and some coffee." "The kind of dream that could land her in serious trouble," Malcolm replied coolly, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Oh, please," I cut in, attempting to diffuse the simmering heat. "It's all part of the job. Someone has to keep the big guys in check. Right?" He returned my gaze, a flicker of appreciation passing between us. But the shadows were still lurking. "Brave or reckless, it depends on how you look at it," Malcolm remarked, assessing my challenge, while Brian's smirk deepened. "I guess we'll find out just how reckless you are, won't we?" Brian leaned back, plotting with the devilishness that left sparks flying in the room. "That's enough of that. How about some music?" Jasmine threw her arms wide, ready to steer the energy somewhere lighter. As the notes poured into the air, I felt Malcolm's gaze heavy on me, an anchor amidst the whirlwind of chatter. Just as I began to relax, a burst of laughter overwhelmed, and someone pushed me playfully toward him. "Let's dance," Jasmine declared, pulling me into the center of the room. Music flooded the space around us, and for a heartbeat, I was able to exist without the weight of decisions. I swayed to the rhythm, free for a moment, until Malcolm stepped forward, a deliberate movement filled with intent. "May I?" He extended his hand, and I took it, the connection solidifying into something electric as he drew me close. The world around us blurred, and I could feel that intensity between us igniting once more as his hands found their way to my waist. I could sense the air thickening, our surroundings encasing us in a bubble of tension and anticipation. "You dance like you're deciphering a code," he murmured, dipping closer. "Maybe I'm trying to decipher you," I shot back softly, as the music surged, wrapping around us in a playful spell. Just as my heart began to soften, friendly laughter blurred with escalating jealousy as Brian slunk closer, never one to miss a chance at unsettling Malcolm. "Careful, Orane. I think you're out of your league here," he teased, watching for Malcolm's reaction. "Oh, please, give me a break," I said, my voice sharp. "Every league has a wild card. You know this better than anyone." Malcolm caught my eye, and the tautness between us pulled tighter. "I thrive off unpredictability," he replied, his voice low and measured, and the tension shifted, crackling in the air around us. We danced as if the world had fallen away, till the moment was interrupted again by more laughter, loud and raucous. "All right, enough dance battles," Jasmine shouted over the music, her features lit in joy as she poured everyone glasses of homemade sangria. "Let's get serious now. Time for some games." "Yes, I'm ready for a little mayhem," Brian roared, fist pumping in the air. With cocktails in hand, we settled into our seats, both precariously close and uncomfortably distant. The room buzzed with lively banter as the revelry intensified, fueled by delicious liquid courage. Jasmine led us into a game reminiscent of old high school parties, the daring kind that stirred up bold spirits and terrible decisions. As I gripped my glass, warmth surged inside, encouraging me to embrace the night. The tension between Malcolm and me broke into laughter as friends offered ridiculous truths and outlandish dares. "Okay, Malcolm, truth or dare?" Jasmine asked, grinning widely. "Dare," he replied, his confidence radiating. "I dare you," she leaned in dramatically, "to share your deepest secret." Malcolm chuckled softly, the darkness in his eyes flickering like candlelight. "I'm afraid that's classified." "Come on, a little vulnerability never hurt anyone," Jasmine insisted. "Unless you're hiding a criminal past or something." "Why would you even suggest that?" I interjected playfully, shooting Malcolm an exaggerated glance. "Are you trying to expose my secret?" "Yours is the secret I want," Malcolm replied smoothly, his expression never wavering. Just as whimsy dissipated, an unexpected seriousness enveloped us. The challenge rang in the air, palpable, but I could still feel Malcolm's gaze on my lips, as if daring the unseen barrier that separated us. "Okay, let's switch it up. How about we let Ava pick her truth?" Jasmine called, snatching my attention like a broom sweeping dust away. "Come on," Brian insisted, nudging me playfully. "Are you going to indulge us or not?" With laughter bubbling, I considered the eyes on me. A mix of my friends and Malcolm's smoldering presence igniting every recess of my bravery. "Sign then," I decided, my voice defiant. "I dare myself." "Whoa, look at you," Jasmine quipped, delighting in my boldness. "To kiss Malcolm." I shot the challenge at him, bold as I began inching closer. The room paused as the air thinned, full of anticipation. Malcolm held my gaze, the tension curling and thickening between us. "Now that's a dare worth taking," he murmured, stepping forward. Before I could process the waves of laughter morphing into silence, he closed the distance, capturing my lips with his. The kiss was warm and inviting, plunging us both into a realm of intimacy that left the laughter of friends falling away like petals from a withered flower on the wind. The taste of him lingered sweetly, a cocktail of confidence mingled with unpredictability. I sank into the moment, breathing him in as electric feedback danced along my arms. Friends cheered in delight, but my world minimized to the small space between us. With each heartbeat, each exquisite brush of our bodies, the pressures unwound, and reality blurred into something alluring yet dangerous. I pulled away breathlessly, meeting his gaze, aflame with countless unspoken challenges yet to come. "Looks like I'm out of my league after all," he teased, a tantalizing seduction woven into his smile. Just then, the triumphant glow of laughter reclaimed the room, pulling us back into chaos. "Okay, next round," Jasmine declared. And I laughed, feeling the full spectrum of life pulsing through the gathering. As I looked back at Malcolm, our connection pulsated like an unbroken thread, guiding me through the mysteries he held, but with a promise of adventure sweet, intoxicating chaos ahead. "Bring it on," I whispered, feeling my own strength flicker to life. Tonight wasn't about surrendering to chaos, it was about embracing it. I was ready. Chapter 48. Beyond the Surface. The morning light filtered through the oversized windows of Malcolm's penthouse, casting golden rays that danced across the slick marble floors. I stood at the edge of the kitchen island, steam swirling from my cup of chamomile tea. savoring the subtle floral notes mingling with the crispness of the air. Outside, Manhattan thrummed with life, its pulse vibrant and erratic, much like the whirlwind of emotions churning within my chest. "Do you always start your days with tea?" Malcolm's voice, thick with sleep and warmth, drew me from my reverie. He leaned against the doorframe, hands tucked into the pockets of his navy robe, eyes glinting with mischief as he looked at me. I turned to face him, noting how the soft morning light sculpted the contours of his face, accentuating the faint stubble that adorned his jawline. "Didn't know you were a fan of chamomile. Thought you were too busy conquering the world to indulge in such daintiness." "Believe it or not," he said, a teasing lilt to his tone, "I appreciate a good chamomile. Keeps my mind clear for more pressing matters." His eyes never left me, a languid intensity sparking between us as the shadows of our erratic night still lingered in the back of my mind. With a huff, I walked toward him, placing my tea on the island and feigning casualness despite the heat radiating just beneath my skin. "Is that what you call your latest negotiation? Or is it the drama with your associates?" A flicker of annoyance crossed his expression before he suppressed it with a smile. "Aren't you supposed to be the analyst here? Aren't you supposed to read the subtext?" "Maybe I'm not interested in your subtext anymore," I shot back, crossing my arms defiantly as a rush of adrenaline coursed through me. The atmosphere shifted palpably as Malcolm straightened, intrigued yet wary. "You want me to bear everything? You think I can just let you in and relinquish the safest parts of me?" "It's not as simple as that," I countered, an edge creeping into my voice. "You think you can attract me with promises and charm while keeping your past locked away? Secrets don't work that way, Malcolm. They fester until they threaten to consume everything." He stepped closer, invading my space, the heat of his body radiating towards me. "And you think you're without secrets, Ava? What about the tales you craft about your past? The version of yourself you'd choose to present to the world? There's a cost to vulnerability. No one cuts deeper than we do to ourselves," I whispered, lowering my gaze. "What are you really afraid of losing? Me, or the illusion of power you've built around yourself?" An uncomfortable silence stretched between us, the tension thickening. It felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, peering at the abyss below. I could see the fissures in his composed facade begin to fracture. "Maybe I'm afraid you'll realize just how dangerous I really am," he finally replied, his voice low, and I caught the flicker of vulnerability hiding behind his bravado. "Dangerous how?" I inquired softly, stepping forward, shaking the cobwebs of doubt from my mind. "You keep saying that, but I'm here, right? I don't care about what came before. I want to be part of whatever it is we're building together." Malcolm's lips curled into a half-smile that didn't quite reach his expressive eyes. "You have no idea what you're stepping into." "No, I don't," I admitted, the truth hanging like a fragile thread in the air. "But I also feel alive in a way I haven't in years. You make everything feel possible, Malcolm." His hand brushed against my cheek, grounding me. "Then don't run from that, Ava. Embrace it." "Embrace it, huh?" I tossed my hair back, defiant and slightly giddy at the current dancing around us. "You're quite the charmer this morning." "That's usually when I get my best work done," he said, a low chuckle escaping his lips. "In case you haven't noticed, seduction is a fragile dance between risk and reward." I stepped back, my heart racing as I reacted to his teasing. "Well, let's properly dance then. What's the worst that can happen?" He chuckled darkly. "You might find out how messy desire can be when it meets ambition." "Yeah? And is that why you keep me at arm's length?" I raised an eyebrow, testing the waters of tension brimming on the surface. "Afraid I'll pick ambition over you?" "Yes," he admitted, eyes glinting with something that felt a lot like mischief. "But I'm equally unsure what I'd do without you. Isn't that a bit terrifying?" "Terrifying but exhilarating," I said, my heart thumping in my chest. "What do you want, Malcolm? Here now?" He silenced me with a fierce kiss, and there was nothing gentle about it. It was a collision of lips, a rush of breath. My thoughts scattered as I melted into him, my body awakening to every pulse of desire, igniting beneath our skin. Oh, I whispered against his mouth, excitement ricocheting through my veins. We're not really dancing anymore, are we? He broke away, leaving me breathless, eyes blazing with the heat of the moment. Then let's not pretend, he said, voice heavy and low. Malcolm grabbed my wrist and led me toward his bedroom. Are you going to explain all those secrets in there? I asked, playfully daring. Maybe you can handle a few, he said, a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. With a vibrant laugh, I added, clearly I know how they make me feel. Maybe I'll just roll with it. Malcolm turned to me, expression sharpening. Roll with it just like that? This isn't a game, Ava. I won't let you tangle with forces you don't understand. Who says I don't understand? I shot back, fierce and unyielding. Lose yourself? Please, I could teach you a thing or two about that. His eyes narrowed, the challenge invigorating him. Oh, will you now? Are you ready for the lesson? Because it might just change everything, I taunted, the heat of our prior conversation swirling back into focus. The only thing I care to know, Ava, is whether you can handle what comes next when the surface gives way. You're still talking in riddles, Malcolm, I growled, eyes narrowing. He grinned, dipping his head to hover mere inches from mine. That's the point, love. But you know I can have fun demolishing those facades. With that, his lips crashed against mine again, more urgent this time. Pulses of fire surged between us, scalding but delicious. My skin broke out in goosebumps, the magnetic pull between us undeniable. I had never experienced passion like this, raw and unrestrained. Yet lurking beneath, I caught a fleeting shadow of doubt, mingled with desire. Malcolm carried me toward the bed, starbursting thoughts of ambition, battling against a fiery connection we were forging. I pushed against him, reclaiming my breath even as my heart raced in stark defiance of our previous argument. Before this goes any further, tell me one thing. Anything, he growled, breathlessly paused against my ear as he laid me on the sumptuous silk sheets. Do I frighten you? Truly? I queried, catching his gaze, our souls colliding and merging in that charged moment. He hesitated for only a second, as if weighing my words, and then nodded, his eyes heavy with truth. Yes, you frighten me, because I feel everything with you. All the chaos and beauty I've fought to keep at bay. Without breaking eye contact, Malcolm grasped my arms, pushing me back into the silken sheets, a fierce possessiveness defining his intent. But you also set something free in me, Ava. So if you're going to explore the depths of my world, know this, it will alter you and me. It's a heady truth I've been wrestling with since the moment we met. Every word ignited my senses, stripping away layers of doubt and fear. I can handle change. Bring it on. Good, he muttered, lowering himself down to devour my mouth with his, hands entwined in my hair, anchoring me to the rush of moments tumbling over one another. His warmth enveloped me, and as he kissed me deeper, I could feel the electricity connecting us, sparking wild and passionate. The world outside faded into bliss as we lost ourselves, abandoning the intricate chess pieces of our lives. For every argument and every moment of tension, here was the resolution that melted our worries into each other's embrace. It was a raw, wild affair, a torrential downpour of desire that bathed us in the sanctity of connection. I moaned as his kisses deepened, tracing fragile lines of pleasure along my jaw, igniting an inferno within. Every shivering gasp spun us further into that vortex of raw, visceral attraction, until nothing else existed. No ambitions or secrets could pierce this blissful moment. When our bodies finally aligned, melding and moving together, we transcended any lingering doubts, smothering fears beneath a blanket of chaos turned ecstasy. The world turned softly while the thrum of the city remained, a distant hum to our wild temperature of passion. In that moment, surrounded by the remnants of dawn, I embraced not merely the man beside me, but the certainty that within this love rested an artful, tempestuous danger, one worth every heartbeat. I simply had to tread cautiously, not lose myself, but rather embrace every facet of what came next. "Are you ready for more chaos?" he murmured, lips trailing teasingly along my shoulder, shivers radiating his touch. "Ready as a storm at sea," I breathed, yielding to the whirlpool of possibility, composed not just of desire but resilience. "Then let it begin," he whispered, a promise cloaked in intoxicating daring. And with that, we surrendered to the alluring waves of the unknown, where longing mingled with vulnerability, a dance beyond the surface. Chapter 49: Dangerous Liaisons. My world has always been tightly controlled, a realm of precise calculations, logical equations, and boundaries carefully sketched in ink. The glow of the city through the sprawling glass windows of Malcolm's penthouse was a stark contrast to my tightly wound existence. Neon lights flickered to life below, casting vivid reflections, like the erratic pulse of my own heart. The hum of activity rose from the streets, wild and frenetic, much like the chaos that had crept into my life since I met him. "Ava, you can't just shove your head in the sand and pretend this isn't happening." Tessa's voice sliced through my reverie, sharp as a crisp autumn evening. She stood across the plush living room, arms crossed defensively, her carefully curated blazer contrasting with the wild curls tumbling around her shoulders, an artistic tornado in a field of soot-clad chaos. I turned, feigning indifference. "What do you want me to do, Tess? Withdraw? Sell my soul? This whole situation is beyond messy. Messy is an understatement." Tessa pushed her lips together, frustration swirling in her deep-set brown eyes. "Malcolm is crawling with danger, and look at you, you're practically purring around him like a cat in a sunbeam." "I am not purring," I denied, but I could feel the corners of my mouth tugging into a smile as I thought of the way Malcolm took me in his arms, how every taut muscle felt like an electric jolt underneath my fingertips. No, it was more than that. It was dangerous, intoxicating, wilder than the vaults of the shadowy underworld he inhabited. Tessa stepped closer, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor like a marionette's strings. "And those vaults aren't just another thrilling adventure for you to explore. This is serious. Your safety, your career, in jeopardy because of who you're entangled with." Sinking into the plush couch, I sighed, feeling like an oversized child enveloped in a parent's embrace. "I know. I do. It's hard not to feel drawn in. Malcolm has this way about him, this gravity." "The gravity," she huffed, "is going to pull you under if you're not careful." Malcolm strolled in from the adjacent room, dressed impeccably in tailored slacks and a fitted navy shirt. A trace of the day's stress was etched across his handsome features. Yet the moment he caught my eye, a flicker of warmth ignited in his gaze, like a spark against the darkness. Instinctively, I leaned towards him, drawing strength from his presence. "Everything all right?" he asked, his voice low and smooth, a calming balm to the chaos Tessa radiated. "Just the usual pep talk," I replied, offering a wry grin that I hoped masked the turmoil swirling in my chest. Tessa rolled her eyes. "I'm just trying to protect her from heartache and peril. You know, the little things." Malcolm chuckled lightly, the sound resonating through the air before settling between us like an unspoken agreement. "Heartache and peril seem to come with the territory when you're with me," he replied, a hint of mischief dancing in his eyes. "You think?" Tessa challenged, crossing her arms even tighter. I glanced between them, the electricity between us crackling with possibilities. "We're all aware that if I'm in this, I'm in deep. But I can handle it," I said, steeling my resolve. The thrill of danger pulsated through me, both alluring and terrifying. "Can you, though?" Tessa took a step forward, concern etched in her features. "What about the rumors, the whispers that ripple through the industry? They're saying you're too close." Malcolm's expression darkened, the warmth dissipating like morning mist. Rumors, like shadows, can cloak the innocent, Tessa. Ava isn't merely innocent. I'm not trying to say she is, Tessa protested. But how do you expect her to navigate this? You're playing a dangerous game, Malcolm. His eyes didn't waver from mine, a flicker of the storm brewing under the surface. You need to trust me just as I trust you, Ava. But I can't guarantee your safety if you keep tiptoeing toward temptation without fully recognizing what that means. I straightened, feeling the familiar prickle of impatience rising within me. What does that even mean? I'm not some fragile doll that needs to be handled with care. My career, my passions, they are everything I've fought for. You understand that, right? The silence that followed was thick, punctured only by the distant honking of a horn from somewhere below. Tessa glanced away, a cue of discomfort, while Malcolm's gaze remained unwavering. Sometimes, Ava, the fierce independence you wear like armor blinds you to the danger of wanting something, or someone too much. Losing yourself doesn't require breaking apart. It can be slow and insidious. My chest tightened, air slipping away as I faced him. Let me decide what I want, Malcolm. Don't imprison me in concern. I'll take my chances with you. A subtle challenge teetered in the air, as if our conversation had transformed into a dance of wills. Malcolm stepped forward, intense and simmering. Then let's stake our claims with honesty. What do you want right now? Not trusting myself to speak, I simply met his gaze, 1,000 unspoken words hanging between us. Tessa cleared her throat, the silent spectator finally breaking through our charged moment. Right now I want both of you to stop staring at each other like you're contestants on a reality show, and remember that the world isn't made up of just the two of you. Malcolm chuckled, shaking off the tension. I felt the corner of my lips lift into a grin as I felt the mood lightening, just for a moment. Okay, as entertaining as this internal war is, maybe we should focus on real-world issues, like the line of questionable investor opportunities that landed on my desk just today. I nodded, turning the conversation back to business. That's what we should be focusing on. Or I could propose another option, Malcolm interjected. How about I whisk you away for dinner, somewhere secluded, just us? Tessa raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms. Dinner in a place away from your prying eyes? Now that sounds enticing. Maybe a little too enticing. I rolled my eyes, a smile creeping in despite my reservations. Haven't you seen what happens when we have too much time alone? It becomes all too complicated. Complicated rarely equals boring, Ava, Malcolm replied, his voice dropping to a seductive whisper that curled around me like silk. And if you're wanting me, I'm very much available. Tessa interrupted our moment, tapping into the urgency of the situation again. But what about the files you found in the system? We need to reach out to someone competent. They're inconclusive, Malcolm said, with a hint of annoyance, cutting Tessa off with a smooth efficiency that made my heart race. What we need is to focus on ensuring Ava's safety, not playing detective in the dark. What is this? A game of who can sound more noble? Let's pivot back to the topic at hand. The business is fraught. The last thing we need is for threats to bubble over when we're operating in chaos. Fine, I said, raising a hand to cut through the escalating energy. Let's table the drama for a moment. Let me go home where it's quiet and we can revisit this with clearer heads. It's never quiet with you, Ava, Malcolm murmured, and instinctively my pulse quickened. Touché, I shot back, feeling an exhilarating rush. But we can tackle both life and business without losing ourselves. You don't have to be the stalwart protector all the time. Good, because I'd rather shield you than smother you, he replied, sincerity crackling through the air. Tessa sighed, visibly torn between her urge to shield me and her awareness of the chemistry igniting dangerously between us. I know you mean well, Malcolm, but I worry she's navigating a tightrope laden with uncertainties. Let her decide how she moves, Tessa. Besides, she's a lot stronger than you give her credit for, Malcolm said, glancing down at me with an intensity that made my heart race. The weight of his gaze hung around me like a mist I couldn't escape. I smiled, emboldened by the faith Malcolm seemed to have in me, a trust that I yearned to earn fully in return. Maybe we should draw out our plans separately, agreeing on a mischief strategy.
Fine, but I'll hold you to that dinner afterward,
Malcolm teased, leaning closer, the seductive warmth brushing against my ear as he whispered, "We'll draw some designs of our own." "Oh, I look forward to it, as long as I get to play the artist," I mimicked, my humor buoyant and giddy. As Tessa rolled her eyes, a playful sigh escaped her lips. "Fine, just don't say I didn't warn you. I'm standing by with an escape plan." "Oh, please," I shot back, throwing up my hands. "We're adults here. We can manage our lives without an exit strategy engraved on gold plates." The banter danced through the air, laughter ricocheting off the walls, before Malcolm locked eyes with me again, intensity vibrating between us like a raw chord strummed on a guitar. "Give me one chance, Ava. One chance to prove that the best things come from the shadows." "Fancy words," I replied, my heart drumming against my ribs. "But let's make sure they don't come with a price." The words hung suspended between us, like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. In that moment, I was no longer just a seeker of truth. I was a participant in my own dangerous desires. Every risk has its reward. Malcolm's smile was devilishly charming. "Now, are you ready to take that leap?" "Only if you're ready to catch me," I teased back, feeling an electrifying promise hang in the air as we moved together toward the unknown. As we stepped into the swirling chaos of the night, I couldn't help but think, perhaps trepidation and promise could coexist, and both of us could emerge unscathed. But the urgency of the world outside didn't lie softly in contemplation. It loomed, waiting for us to anchor ourselves where love could burn brighter than the shadows. I took his hand, embracing the thrill and the tempest. The dangers might be lurking, but so too were the unforgettable moments we could create. And something told me, in that instant, that the stakes were just about to get higher. Chapter 50. Dining with Shadows. The flicker of candlelight danced across the polished mahogany table, casting shadows that swayed and shifted, like our unresolved tensions. The aroma of slow-roasted lamb filled the air, mingling with a hint of thyme, teasing my senses. I watched Malcolm maneuver effortlessly through the kitchen, a commanding presence, even in the casual swoop of his movements. Every gesture spoke of mastery, not just over culinary arts, but over the delicate threads that bound us both to this moment. I'd spent months building walls, fortifying them like a cybersecurity fortress. But ever since our unexpected first encounter, those walls felt like little more than paper planes tossed into a storm. I heard laughter echoing from the dining area. Melissa's bubbly voice mingled with Malcolm's low hum, creating an easy camaraderie. I had finally let my guard down that night, letting him in piece by piece, only to grapple with the deeper truth that lingered like the shadow just out of sight. "Here we go," Malcolm announced, striding towards me with platters adorned with rich greens and an artful presentation of meat, a tantalizing sculpture in itself. His dark eyes sparkled, laughter waiting just beneath the surface. I smiled back, my heart racing with emotions I had barely found safe to navigate. "You really think impressing me with your cooking will keep me from questioning who you've invited to dinner tonight?" He shot me a playful grin, setting the dish down. "You wound me, Ava. You know I only serve the best. Besides, it's not my fault Melissa always seems to drop by unannounced. She believes I'm incapable of feeding myself." At the mention of Melissa, something inside me tightened. She was beautiful and effortlessly charming, an artist in every sense, with the ability to coax light from shadows. Every time I saw her, I felt both drawn to and threatened by that warmth. Particularly now, when the stakes between Malcolm and me had shifted so dramatically. "Does she always bring dessert too?" My voice was sharper than intended, the lightness in the air now clouded. Malcolm leaned in, eyes sharp yet playful. "Only the one who ruins meals loaded with tension when the tension is already taken care of." He stepped back, folding his arms across his broad chest, inviting me to bite back with my own brand of snark. You think you're brave enough to go toe-to-toe with my witty repartee? Careful, you might get burned. I matched his playful tone, though underneath the edginess brewed. The truth was, whoever Melissa was to him, I wanted to know. Ladies, food first, Melissa chimed in, entirely oblivious to our simmering undertones. She swept into the room in a swirl of bright colors, her laughter echoing off the walls, and somehow lightening my heart momentarily. Honestly, Malcolm, you need to let me help you in here more often. I could whip up some magic with those herbs you've been hoarding. Before I could object, she was filling our plates with food and stories about her day, somewhat infectious in her enthusiasm. As she talked about her latest art exhibition and how she planned to incorporate multimedia elements, I forced myself to focus. None of that was entertaining my deeper concerns about Malcolm's past. So tell us, Melissa, what's your secret ingredient? I prodded, attempting to keep the atmosphere light while tethered to the mounting gravity of my own insecurities. She didn't flinch, a tight pull of curiosity etched into her face as she cocked her head. Ah, you mean other than my undeniable talent? She threw back, playfully batting her eyelashes. But truly it's love. The love I pour into my art, my food. Can't have anything half-hearted, you know, Malcolm smirked, perhaps aware, as I was, of a sudden tension regarding the word love. My heart raced madly as I internally stewed. How much love had he poured into our connection? So, Ava, what do you think? Can we keep this dinner from devolving into a competition of affection, or should I sharpen my knives? Melissa winked, sweeping her fork through a vibrant wine reduction sauce. I grinned back to keep the momentum. As long as there aren't any hidden accomplices in the shadows, I should be fine. Malcolm raised his eyebrows, an amused smile playing on his lips. Accomplices? The air turned electric, the unspoken thoughts slipping out between us as I revealed my fears masked beneath pleasantries. You know, the past. I've seen how these things work. Shadowy figures and secret admirers in business can be real complications. Melissa's laughter rang out like bell chimes, cutting through the tension. Oh, honey, you'd be surprised how many people love drama more than they love food. Her playful quips didn't contain the truth that lurked in my chest, feeling as if I was inhaling smoke instead of air. The delicacies slid down my throat. I chewed slower, pacing myself, grappling with the reality of my own gnawing jealousy. Did Malcolm's past include more than I was prepared for? Care for a little excitement, Ava? Malcolm's voice rolled over me, a sultry rasp swinning amidst Melissa's chatter. He leaned closer, that magnetic pull thrumming beneath the surface, his warmth radiating an undeniable allure that distracted me from the others in the room. Excitement or chaos? I returned, locking eyes as his smirk turned genuine. My heart pounded, recalling how easily the balance shifted between us, from mere words to unyielding heat. I wanted to surrender to that heat wholly, but the shadows of my insecurities danced like the flickering candle flames, reminding me that vulnerability could be a double-edged sword. He chuckled, his gaze unwavering. Why not both? And suddenly everything felt charged, like a live wire. All the other conversations faded into a blur. Just don't burn the house down, Melissa piped up, a knowing spark in her eyes, while shoveling in another mouthful, blissfully unaware. With laughter, we finished dinner and drifted into lighter topics, blending stories of awkward family dinners and inside jokes. Yet as the evening progressed, I couldn't shake the anxious energy rippling around us, hovering dangerously close to fracture. Are you still leaving on your trip tomorrow? I finally asked Malcolm, trying to tether ourselves back to something tangible. The idea of him being away without knowing where he was anxiety-inducing, whether personal or business. There was a thread that felt dangerously taut between us. Only for a couple of days. He leaned forward, elbows resting on the table, voice lowering, imposing urgency into each syllable. I have some unfinished business I need to address. Nothing you'll need to concern yourself with. I narrowed my eyes at him. Unfinished business? As if that's not ominous. What is this, a spy thriller? Does a spy know about a spy? Malcolm quipped back, leaning into mystery, and I could feel laughter threatening to bubble up around that festering uncertainty. Just as a playful retort crossed my mind, Melissa burst into the conversation again, eyes flickering between us expectantly. Ava, do you think it's possible we can open the door to that business of yours, Malcolm? Go on. Tell us your mission impossible. Only if you're willing to risk your life for it, Melissa. He leaned back, interlacing his fingers casually, an edge forming beneath his charm. Pfft, life? I'm living for the drama. Let's hear it, she pressed. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but it's not a matter of laughter and banter, Malcolm countered sharply. Yet the playful fire flickered back as he turned towards me, his voice lowering to a hush against the gentle clinking of silverware. You have no idea how far shadows can stretch. I licked my lips, a thrill coursing just beneath the surface. Did I want to delve deeper into this shadowy past? The thrill of potential danger felt oddly inviting. Yet in the back of my mind, the remnants of jealousy wrapped around my throat and squeezed. I couldn't resort to being just another pretty face at the table. Why don't you take me with you then? I tossed out, the words escaping before I could privately weigh their significance. Are you sure you're ready for that level of excitement? He studied me, the conversation shifting into an undercurrent that simmered with promise, desire, and tension. I couldn't help but connect the dots to how I'd felt discovering more than just our clandestine conversations. My dreams throbbed with wanting. Deep down, I craved what he hinted at, intimacy infused with risk. What's life without a little thrill? I countered bravely, locking eyes, daring the shadows to speak. Let's say I want to hold your secrets. The charged silence thickened, my heart radiant with the prospect of unveiling a connection that transcended surface allure. Secrets? Melissa chortled lightly, but stopped short, sensing the mood change. Someone's going to regret asking next week. If they're not ready for the flames, Malcolm replied, leaning closer, his voice low and seductive, sending tingles along my spine. Everything comes with a price. Are you prepared for that? Before I could answer, the doorbell chimed, slicing through the charged air and sending out a wave of tension that swept through us all. Malcolm's expression shifted, carefully veiling concerns behind effortless charm. Careful now, that might be someone who wants your secrets. We all exchanged glances, and because the rhythm of this evening had become utterly delightful chaos, each countenance suggested that this unexpected guest might diffuse the former sparks or ignite new fires. I turned to Malcolm, instinctively seeking reassurance. Am I the only one who gets to know what lies beneath your cloak of charm? His eyes glimmered, reading the plea for clarity embedded deep within the air, thick with palpable energy. Only if you promise to keep the flames alive, Ava, he whispered, before standing. The moment drew me tightly into his orbit. I shot a look to Melissa, whose raised eyebrows mirrored my own sense of trepidation and excitement as she motioned silently toward the door. I guess we'll see if this meal is going to leave a mark, she teased, right before Malcolm stepped away, the door creaking open. There's an undeniable thrill in the unpredictability of life, as unpredictable as shadows dancing against the walls. Sometimes they obscure, and sometimes they reveal. What lay beyond that door might reshape everything. And so I sat at the table, heart racing, intertwined with scattered desires and flickering shadows, wondering if tonight's unwelcome guest would unravel our fragile intimacy or unearth the long-hidden secrets we all bore. Guess we'll be dining with shadows longer than we expected, I thought to myself, feeling the pulse of our desires beckoning me to dive deeper into those mysteries waiting just beyond reach. You present yourself like a knight in shining armor, but we both know there's a dragon lurking there. The corners of his mouth turned down slightly, emotions flaring in his sharp gaze before their warmth returned. Why do you have to chase the darkness? Can't you see the light? Oh, the light. That's precious, I scoffed, but a wry smile slipped out despite my angst. You think it's easy to trust someone when secrets are like fog, ever present, thickening with every breath. I can't pretend to be light when there's shadow dancing around us. He tilted his head, a familiar glimmer of admiration mingling with that unsettling intensity. I admire your spirit, Ava, but you misread me if you believe I'm a monster. I'd rather be your saving grace than your inner demon. I pinched the bridge of my nose, frustration bubbling over. Do you care to explain how exactly you plan to accomplish that? Or do you just plan to charm me with your words while the world is unraveling? Perhaps I'd like to charm you in other ways too. There was a playful lilt in his voice as he crossed the room to close the distance. Show you that walls can be broken, especially mine. Let me take you on a journey. Before I could answer, the chiming of my phone broke the moment, a sharp reminder of reality that pulled me away. I glanced at the screen, frowning at the name, Tara. Don't answer it, Malcolm urged, his tone a mix of authority and mischief. It's a distraction. She's my best friend, I began, but he cut me off, stepping even closer, his presence almost enveloping me. Focus on what matters, Ava, he said softly, every word laced with an urgency that made my pulse race. What happens here now is an opportunity, one that could change everything. I couldn't deny the fire blooming inside me at his challenge. Fine, what exactly do you propose to change? Malcolm grinned, that teasing joy flickering beneath the weight of our earlier discussion. How about we start by unraveling these layers over a glass of wine and let the dragon be a discussion for another night? His eyes caught the light, glinting with mischief, and I found myself caught between the thrill of rage and passion, the duel of our banter feeding that wild desire we had both tried to tame. I watched as he poured another glass of wine, the crimson liquid glistening like liquid rubies in his hand. Tell me, does dull conversation always lead to passionate pursuits? Most of the time, I replied, matching the warmth of his gaze. How about you? Are you ever dull? He raised an eyebrow, leaning closer, the unbroken line of his body exuding a magnetic charm. I can be many things, Ava. Dull is not one of them. Care to demonstrate? I challenged, my voice dipped in playful sarcasm, determined to reignite the spark we'd birthed earlier. His expression shifted to one of determination, and with a swift motion, he pushed his glass aside and stepped closer, fully invading my space. How about we make another toast? To trust? I tilted my head, not appeased. To trust? He nodded, his intensity ablaze. You don't have to believe me now, but I want to earn that trust, one way or another. Consider it a bet. Are you betting on me or on yourself? I mused. Both. He chuckled, a deep, rolling sound that reverberated through the room. And I've always been good at this game. Except you're not the only player, I reminded him. This is not a one-man show, Malcolm. I'm fiercely competitive. Then let's make it interesting. You and me, together, making shifts in this moment. The heat rose between us as his gaze deepened, both challenge and invitation. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, just a little thing called the apocalypse, I laughed, now weakening against the tension that had knitted us closer together. Malcolm's breath was warm against my skin as he leaned closer, his face inches from mine. Let's take our chances, shall we? Maybe just a little, I conceded, feeling his presence grow magnetic, pulling me with it. As we drew in closer, the air thickened with palpable anticipation, and then he closed the distance, brushing his lips against mine, soft, yet with a hunger that ignited something raw and wild between us. Should we go back to this light and shadow theme? He whispered against my lips, our breaths mingling, tension soaring. If this is the light you're talking about, I might just fall in, I said, tilting my neck slightly as he pulled back, catching the moody fire that had ignited in both of us. More like engulf you. I can swim. In that instant of levity, we bumped foreheads, a shared laugh echoing softly. Malcolm's arms wrapped around me, the warmth of his body offering a haven as my laughter faded into a lingering gaze. How do we get here, Malcolm? I asked, sincerity threading through my playful demeanor. In a whirlwind of confusion and revelations, how do we find clarity? The same way we find each other, he replied, his eyes steady as they locked onto mine. Through trials and desires. Before I could respond, there was a sudden crash from the other room, followed by boisterous laughter from Tara. Now, who's that? I hope it isn't the wine again. Looks like we have company, I murmured, stepping back as the moment shifted away into daylight, laughter spilling through the glass doors out to the terrace. You want to invite her in? Malcolm teased, a hint of mischief sparking in his eyes. Maybe we should have kept the door closed. I laughed, shifting my attention to the cacophony of voices that danced into our intimate setting. You know how she is when she meets new faces. Let's just call it a gathering then, he said, his smile dazzling, charmingly effortless. Who doesn't love a party? It'll be fun. If you think so. My heart felt alive, wrapped in an exhilarating embrace of range between passion, excitement, and an undercurrent of anxiety that always seemed to linger just beneath the surface. I glanced back toward the balcony, where Tara was making her way over, an impish grin on her face. Ava, need I remind you of the last time you kept me waiting? Having a moment. I turned back to Malcolm, who leaned casually against the counter, watching me with a smirk. Don't let the moment slip away, then. The teasing glint in his eyes told me that he relished this playful tension, this push and pull. Why do you have to make it sound like our lives are one big romantic comedy? I replied, only half joking. Because underneath the drama, that's exactly what we are. He straightened slightly, the warmth of the earlier heat fading but not entirely lost. And trust me, I've always preferred the comedy to the tragedy. Let's put that trust to the test, shall we? I raised my brows and turned my attention to the terrace where laughter and light spilled through, a reminder of the world we'd just barricaded ourselves against. I wouldn't mind cracking a few jokes if it means we're not going to unravel tonight. Sweet Ava, I promise you, the night is just beginning. And as Tara burst into the kitchen, I felt an ease flow back into the atmosphere, ready to dance through the chaotic, twisted web we had woven. Yes, we were all characters in this unexpected story, embraced within a humorously complex plot that promised not just laughter, but insight, connection, and maybe something more profound, threading through the laughter and light as we ventured into the unknown. As I looked at Malcolm, the fleeting moments of uncertainty began to weave into something warm and hopeful. I understood that every profound moment held the potential to change everything. I reveled in the sweetness of that promise as I stepped into the gathering, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited. Chapter 52. Wrapped in mystery, the rain drummed against the spotless glass of my apartment, a relentless percussion that mirrored the turmoil swirling within me. I watched the droplets cascade, pooling at the edges of the window frame, each one a tiny universe reflecting the chaos of my life. The faint smell of damp earth wafted through the open window, grounding me in the moment, urging me to breathe. Yet my mind drifted, replaying the weight of last night's conversation with Malcolm like a movie stuck on rewind. "Do you even want to know who I really am?" he had asked. A tenderness that usually melted the barriers around my heart, now feeling ominous, loaded with unanswered questions. And I had stared at him, my heart racing, my mind battling the desire to leap into the unknown and the instinct to shield myself from him. "Why wouldn't I?" I replied. But the words felt hollow, the truth buried beneath layers of unresolved feelings. With a sigh, I squared my shoulders, steeling myself against the incessant buffet of weather and uncertainty. I had a deadline to meet, and nothing short of a catastrophe could deter me from my work. My professional life was the fortress I clung to, built on ambition and razor-sharp focus. Yet around Malcolm, that fortress felt twisted, its foundations shifting beneath my feet. I slipped into my office chair, the familiar scent of strong coffee mingling with the tang of electronics, lifting my spirits momentarily. My fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling my mind back to the present, a flood of code and algorithms shielding me from the emotional storm brewing outside the digital confines of my monitor. My phone buzzed, interrupting my concentration, and I glanced at the screen. "Can we talk?" The message, just from Malcolm, so simple and yet echoing with urgency. A sense of dread washed over me. What more secrets could he unveil? With his ties to the underbelly of society, I was teetering on the cusp of revelation, ready to dive into a sea of chaos. Then again, wasn't that exactly what I craved? I tapped back quickly. "Sure, I'm free." The reply came almost immediately. "Meet me at the Faraday Room at 7. I stumbled upon the name of the swanky bar, nestled in the heart of the city, both a sanctuary and a symbol of our turbulent connection. The Faraday Room was where romance went to spark and fizzle out in an expensive haze. I couldn't help but wonder if this rendezvous would end with passion, a burst of heat against fear, or with the echo of resentment. The hour dragged by as every tick of the clock added tension to the inevitable encounter. I tucked loose strands of hair behind my ears, my fingers betraying my nerves by fidgeting with the delicate silver chain around my neck. At 7, I slipped into a sleek black dress that hugged my curves. Sensual, powerful, the kind that whispered both readiness and trepidation. It was in moments like this that I recognized the duality of my existence. Ambitious Ava, the cybersecurity consultant, and yearning Ava, the woman tangled in Malcolm's orbit.